separates me from my winter hell. I've got candles and candy, I can be your daddy if you only let me creep into your prison cell. Hey baby, can you tell I'm not a criminal? Your choice is seminal. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true. Just speak low, stand in your row, try not to show this life's a show. Try not to glow way down below. Oh, it's a lot of woe, and that's not a place where you would like to go. I've got cigarettes and brandy, which could come in handy if you just help me loosen up my hand grenades fuse. Baby, don't refuse, not true, but it's up to you now to choose. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true, 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 true,
Well, hey, party people. Y'all ready for Lori shenanigans? Day 2. Here we go. Hold on. Let me go forward a little bit.
Yesterday, Mr. Abernathy, one of the advisory council, said he would be late today because he had a childcare issue, but that Ms. Hicks, the other advisory council, would be here and ready to start at 9:30. What time did that email come in? All right, so we got an email at 9:20 saying she's still at her office printing off pictures, which is wholly unacceptable. Ms. Daybell, you represent yourself. You do not need your advisory council here, but I'm going to split the difference. She's being sent an email that says if she's not here at 9:50, we're going to start. If there's pictures that need to be printed off, staff can do that. Staff can bring it over later, but she should have been here at 9:30. If this were federal court, she'd probably be going into custody. I mean, this is ridiculous. All right, I'm just letting everyone know what the holdup is. We're going to start at 9:50.
Judge, at 9:50, I do need to make a record regarding character evidence and the defendant opening the door before she questions some witnesses.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that that's out there so she's aware of that.
We'll do that at 9:50.
And we're off to a fantastic start.
The fact that
Hold on.
I want to start with the fact that the defendant is appearing to try to bring in 404 character evidence about herself. Rule 404A does not allow the defendant to bring in character evidence to prove action in conformity, which is clearly what she was doing. Assuming she does, then the rules would permit the state to then bring in specific act evidence of this defendant. The defendant is trying to say she is a peaceful person, she has no malice. I believe that will open the door to allow the state to bring in the fact that she is a 4-time convicted murderer. Next, the defendant, in terms of bringing up information about Brandon hiring a PI and trying to make it appear that he has some vendetta against her, we have worked very hard to try to say there is an incident in Chandler. Brandon Boudreaux was very aware of the fact that this defendant and her brother had shot and killed Charles Vallow. And this is why he was very afraid for his life and trying to realize where she was and where Alex was. So if she wants to go into all of that information, then again, I believe she will be opening the door to allow Brandon to then explain why he was in so much fear for his life, why he was hiring a private investigator to locate this defendant and locate Alex Cox. So I just want to make it very clear that should she go into those areas, I will be asking to then bring in the fact that she has been involved in the murder of Charles Vallow, her own children, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
And I believe 405 will permit that, Your Honor.
So I had literally the same thoughts during her opening statement, especially when she started talking about I'm a person with good intent, kindness, peace and love, etc. And I was thinking in my head, wow, she's opening a big door right here. Now, it's not witness testimony. The jury has been instructed specifically that that's not evidence or testimony. But I think the notice that the state is putting out right now is well taken, because if you elicit testimony through a witness or you testify yourself along those lines, there's several doors that would be opened in that instance. Do you understand that?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. The schedule. In that instance, do you understand that?
I understand what you're saying, Your Honor.
Okay. The schedule.
I also understand that the state also withdrew their 404B, that they had
Well, that
no
doesn't
intention of doing that. So
That doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying they did give a notice for 404B, and then they did withdraw it. So they didn't have any intention. I didn't have any intention.
The issue is if you bring in your good character as a reason of why this didn't happen, they're going to be allowed to rebut that type of testimony because you've opened the door to it. The schedule for today, I'd like to finish the witness that was on the stand yesterday, if he could come up.
And then, Judge, just for scheduling, I have one civilian witness who only had a Ring camera. She is very fast. I would like to, after Detective Ferrer is done, put her on quickly before we recall Brandon, just so she isn't waiting around.
All right, so it'll be the witness from yesterday. We'll conclude with him. The defendant was in the middle of her cross on him. We'll do that civilian witness. At some point in the morning, we'll take a short break for the court reporter in about an hour. And then we'll recall Mr. Boudreaux to complete your cross, or start and complete your cross. All right? Are they lined up? Go ahead and line them up.
Okay, first of all, Lori, you're so rude. He's speaking to you. Okay, nodding your head is not acceptable. You need to respond to the judge. It's rude. Let's start there. Number two, Lori, you're a huge number two. All right. At the end of the day, you opened the door. You said that you spread love, that you don't have malice in your heart or malice towards anybody else. You're all about sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, right? When the truth is, you're really more like the nothing. Okay. Excuse me. Anywho, you did open that door, and you're an idiot.
And if I can go get the witness 20 minutes.
Just because the state said they had no intention of using that evidence, they didn't until you open that door. And even then, they're putting you on notice. They still haven't used it. They're just, hold on. They're just putting you on notice. So don't get all persnickety, you bootleg demon Charo.
Go ahead. Please rise to the jury. All right, welcome back. Please be seated. Thank you for your patience. All right, the defense can continue with its cross of this witness.
Let's go, Lori. Let's get your scribbles and come on.
Okay, Detective Ferrer, yesterday we were talking about you collected the evidence, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so what all evidence did you collect yourself?
The projectiles from a bullet.
Is there any other evidence that you collected?
At the scene or?
Yes, at the scene.
Yes, just the projectile.
Okay. And then, was there a cigarette collected at the scene? Is that correct?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
I did not impound that.
You never saw it?
I don't recall it.
Okay. And you had collected the items that were in the Ford F-150, is that correct?
Yes.
And you collected the earplugs that were in the truck?
Yes.
And you stated that those were common among people who frequent a shooting range, is that correct?
Yes.
And during the course of your investigation, did you learn that Alex Cox frequently visited shooting ranges?
No.
Okay. You mentioned that you remembered Alex Cox's vehicle license plate because it was personalized, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then in the course of your investigation, did you discover what his license plate stood for?
No.
Okay. Or what it was a reference to?
I do not know.
Okay. Did you learn in the course of your investigation that Alex did stand-up comedy?
No.
Okay. We talked about the hole in the Tesla, is that correct?
Yes.
And you said it was consistent with a bullet hole, is that correct?
Yes.
And so that could be a bullet from a rifle or a handgun?
Yes.
Okay. So either one.
Either one.
And those fragments weren't tested to find out if that was from a bullet or, I mean, the bullet was from a rifle or a handgun?
I did not send it for testing.
Okay. You also said that You were the one that canvassed the neighborhood for videos?
One of many.
Okay. But in your report, you said that at 3854 Phelps, that the individual had heard a loud bang but did not investigate it, said it didn't sound like a gunshot. Is that correct?
I object to hearsay.
Sustain.
And you had stated that you did collect the fragments, is that correct?
Objection asked and answered.
But the majority of the bullet was never located, is
Let
that
me
correct?
rule on the
Oh, sorry.
objection. It's sustained. Next question.
And the majority of the bullet was never located, is that correct?
We had a projectile. That's what we found. Just pieces of it,
Okay.
fragments.
And you had put in your report that you believed it had fallen out during when the victim drove away?
It's possibility. There's a lot of possibilities.
So my question is, how would it have fallen out? How could you explain it falling out? Could you explain that to me?
It depends where the bullet hole or the projectile goes into a vehicle. There's several, a vehicle is not sealed. All sealed up, so there's not ever breathing or anything like that. So there's holes in it, and there's ways that, let's say like venting and that type of stuff for a vehicle. So when a vehicle is in motion, it moves, right? It rocks, goes over bumps. That's why they have shock absorbers. So anything that's on top, it's just like when you accidentally leave your coffee on top of your vehicle and you drive off. It's a good chance it's going to fall off. And it's the same as a projectile on a vehicle also.
Okay. So how far down were the fragments that you found into the hole that was made in the Tesla?
It was located by another detective, but it was easy enough for us to retrieve.
So like it
I don't,
inside the hole somewhere.
yes.
But just so I understand, the bullet breaks apart, is that correct?
Yes.
And so maybe the majority fell out and those pieces were left inside.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how much of the bullet was taken apart or how much damage that bullet or projectile would have had.
Okay. But some of the pieces could be in there and the majority of it could fall out?
That's the theory, yes.
And it wouldn't be wedged in?
We didn't locate anything that was wedged in.
But that could have been due to just driving around the block because, like you said, the car jostles.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
If the car had not been in motion, then the bullet should have been intact. Is that correct?
No, when a bullet hits, it depends on the type of bullet, frangible or non, the make, the model. If it hits a solid object, bullets have different properties. So some will break apart a little easier than others. Some will go right through. It just depends on the make and the model of the bullets.
Okay. So no testing was done on this bullet to find out what kind of bullet it was?
The projectile.
Correct. I mean, no.
I did not send it for testing.
Okay. Is that something that could be found out?
What do you mean?
What kind of bullet it was from the fragments?
I believe there's a test that possibly does it.
Okay. And you didn't think that was necessary?
I was not the case detective on this.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, babe.
So since those bullet fragments were not tested in any way, the markings on there that you had testified to yesterday that were copper were part of the jacket, is that correct?
The coloring,
Yes.
the color, yes.
So that's just from a visual. That's not from any kind of testing of the copper. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So just looking at
It's
it.
the color.
Okay. That color, copper color, could have been from the Tesla itself?
I didn't see any copper coloring on the outside of that Tesla. It was white in color.
Okay. And then when you said you canvassed the neighborhood, or the Gilbert Police Department canvassed the neighborhood, there was no camera coverage to your knowledge. Is that correct?
People I talked to did not have any. I believe there was camera footage found by other detectives or officers, yes.
Oh, there was.
Possibly, yes.
But you did not discover any?
No.
And you have never seen any?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine Michelle, for
Have you been
becoming
working on this case, the
balls. Hold on. Hold on.
and you had collected the items that were in the Ford F-1.
We're past this. I can't believe I did that. Oh wait, there. This is where we were. Thank gosh. All right, hold on. We'll go back a little bit.
Things on there that you.
All right, let me just say, I'm so sorry, you guys. Thank you, Catherine Michelle, for becoming a member. I appreciate it. Welcome to the ward. Thank you for supporting me. All right, now I'm focused. Let's get this show on the road.
Had testified to yesterday that were copper were part of the jacket. Is that correct?
The coloring?
Yes.
The color, yes.
So that's just from a visual. That's not from any kind of testing of the copper. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So just looking at
It's
it.
the color.
Okay. That color, copper color, could have been from the Tesla itself?
I didn't see any copper coloring on the outside of that Tesla. It was white in color.
Okay. And then when you said you canvassed the neighborhood, or the Gilbert Police Department canvassed the neighborhood, there was no camera coverage to your knowledge. Is that correct?
People I talked to did not have any. I believe there was camera footage found by other detectives or officers, yes.
Oh, there was.
Possibly, yes.
But you did not discover any.
No.
And you have never seen any?
No.
Okay. And have you been working on this case this whole time, or what was your involvement as far as from October 2nd to when you worked on this case?
The original call out I was part of, and then I was requested to go execute the search warrant on the Ford F-150. And that was December 23rd.
And that kind of ended your
Yes.
dealings with this case?
Yes.
Okay. So all of the reports that you had written were in between that time frame?
Yes.
Okay. No more questions, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Detective, I'm going to start with sort of where we were just ending and go back to some issues from yesterday. In this Tesla, did you note damage to the molding where the window would have gone up into the frame of the Tesla?
Yes.
Can I have the Alamo, please? Thank you. So we're looking here, Exhibit 39. So would it be fair to say that there's not a great seal anymore between where the window went up into the frame and the car itself?
That is correct.
And did you also view the glass itself?
Yes.
That was laying on the driveway?
Yes.
And did you also, Exhibit 46, note that little notch or divot in the glass itself?
Yes.
And was that sort of consistent with the location of where the window would have gone up into the frame of the vehicle?
That is correct.
So when you're talking about a seal of a window going up into the frame, Does the fact that the molding was broken and that there's a divot in the glass and the glass was completely shattered impact whether or not all those fragments or pieces of that projectile might remain inside the Tesla?
There's a good chance they would fall out of the Tesla.
Because the seal is no longer the same as it once was, right?
Correct.
You were asked yesterday about the length of the bullet hole or the size of this bullet hole. Do you recall that?
Yes.
When you're talking about the A here, were you trying to measure from not just the damage of where the bullet started to impact or cause that concaveness in the frame, but just the actual hole itself?
Yes.
Does that still tell you the size of the bullet?
No.
That's just the damage that it caused as it entered into the frame of this Tesla?
That is correct.
You were asked yesterday about casings and fragments, and can we explain what a casing is, what a projectile is, and what fragments are?
Sure. A casing is what the bullet is contained in. That's where the black powder and the actual bullet itself is attached to. A casing is usually discarded after the bullet is fired out of the gun. And it's usually, it could be caught, it depends on what kind of weapon there is. Revolvers actually keep the casings in as a circle. Rifles are known to, could keep the casing inside until you eject it yourself. The semi-automatic weapons which police use and which are more common, they have it's a semi-action. It will eject the casing out. The casing just holds the bullet. Once the bullet is fired from the gun, it comes out very, very hot. We're trying to explain is when it hits a certain item, it just depends on the integrity of the bullet itself. How strong is that bullet? Is it going to be strong enough to go through metal? Usually not. And so once it hits an item, it is compromised. The bullet is compromised and it makes fragments. It falls apart. And that's where the fragments come from. And that's what we found in this Tesla, with just fragments of the actual bullet.
Okay, so when we're talking about the fragments that you recovered, those pieces of the projectile after it broke apart and after it had first gone through or into the Tesla frame, this metal, and then broke apart. That's what you're talking about when you talked about the fragments that you recovered?
That is correct.
Now, the defendant asked you about casings and if you found any at the scene. Do you recall that line of questioning?
I do remember that.
If you were advised that the person firing the rifle was laying or lying in wait inside of the back of a Jeep, that only part of the barrel of that rifle came out the rear window, and then the rifle was fired, where would you expect that casing to land?
More than likely, it would still be inside that vehicle, the Jeep.
Okay, so you would not expect it to fly forward out of the Jeep and land out on the ground?
No.
The defendant asked you about if you saw a casing over by the pool. Would you expect, absent, I guess, a hole in the floor of the Jeep, to find the casing over there if it was still in the Jeep?
No.
So,
Never found the casing next to a pool.
but you wouldn't expect to find a casing over
No.
there, right?
No.
There was no evidence of anyone shooting over there,
Right.
and there would be no reason for a casing to be over there.
Correct.
So in this case, given the information you were given, were you surprised that you didn't find a casing?
No. It doesn't mean we don't look for the casing. We automatically look for the casings But since it was inside of a vehicle, it's just like a drive-by shooting type of thing. We'll say once we pull the car over, the casings will be inside that vehicle, most likely. Then one or two might pop out if they have their gun outside the window, something like that, the casing might. But usually we search, there was no casing found in this, so we determined it was more likely than not, inside that vehicle still.
And the casing was in the windowsill? Sorry.
Yeah, the casing was more likely than not inside that vehicle still.
Inside the Jeep still?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Are there any questions from the jury? I don't see any. Sir, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
If I may go get the next witness?
Go ahead.
Okay, hey, I cannot see MK Lynn. How are y'all saying hi to MK? I can't see him. MK, you in here? Okay, then it's not just me. All right, fantastic. I'm glad. He doesn't have us blocked. I even went and looked at the blocked list, and he's not there. I would never block MK. All right, let's go get that. Let's see.
Please state and spell your first and last name. Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yeah, go ahead and have a seat right here. You'll scoot into that microphone there.
Well, this is awkward. They're just leaving her up there to sit. Come on, Trina.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Lynette
And what's your last name?
Mendoza.
Thank you. Do you currently live here in Arizona?
I do.
Back on October 2nd of 2019, where did you live?
In Gilbert,
And what was your address back then?
3893 East Fairview Street.
And how long did you live at that location?
In total, 6 years.
Okay. I'll show you. I can have my paralegal approach with Exhibit 2. You to look at Exhibit 2, a map. Does that show sort of the area of your neighborhood as well as where your house would have been located back in October 2nd of 2019?
Yes.
State will move to admit Exhibit 2.
Any objection?
No objection.
2 is admitted.
Thank you. Okay. So you told us your address was 3893 East Fairview Street.
Yes.
We see Fairview here on Exhibit 2. Approximately where was your residence on this map?
It is the house on the very corner.
Is it the corner of Fisher and Fairview? Or which corner are we talking about?
It's been a little while. It's been a little while. I'm sorry. It's,
There's a map right from you.
oh, sorry. I'm trying to think. Record. Turn down.
This is Fairview.
Right. So it's either Fisher or Cole. I can't remember which street corner. So there's a park, and it's right on the corner.
Okay.
Fry, Record, turn in. Morelos around to Fairview.
Let me put up.
This is how I would be testifying if somebody
the part
showed me
you're
a
talking
map,
about.
just so you guys know. Can we see the friggin'
right
map? Probably
On the
not.
corner here.
Phillips. Yes, right there on the corner.
So you're
Right there. Yes,
right
ma'am.
here. Okay.
Yes, that's the house.
Back on October 2nd of 2019, did you have a Ring doorbell?
Yes.
Did your front door sort of face out towards Fairview Street?
Yes.
And do you recall sort of where your Ring doorbell was located?
Yes.
Where was it?
So from the front door, it sat off to the left-hand side if I was in the home at the front, and it faced out towards that street.
Did it sometimes get a little bit of this intersection here?
All the time, yes.
Okay. And was it sort of motion activated?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that when there was some sort of vehicle going by, it might activate it to start recording.
Yes.
Do you recall back on October 2nd, an officer coming around and asking you if you had a Ring system and to kind of look in the time range of 9:15-ish to see if you had any footage of vehicles going by?
I do.
And were you asked to email any recordings to the police department?
Yes,
And did you do that?
I did.
And Your Honor, I've shown defense counsel or the defendant Exhibit 120. If I can have my paralegal show that to the witness.
Hey, Blanca, good to see you. Yeah. It's hard for me to sometimes, I feel for him and it's hard, bless his heart. So I'm streaming this and Karen Reed. So also Destination. I don't know why she doesn't, she's rude. She's rude. I don't know. Maybe she thinks because she's, a goddess and translated, she no longer needs to stand. Who knows? Hey, Crocheting Bammy, you haven't missed anything, babe. We just started. We haven't got to Brandon's cross-examination yet. This witness lived on Fairview, and they have her Ring footage. So that's all we're looking at now.
Did you recognize that as your residence
Yes.
and your Ring video
Yes.
and the footage that you sent to the police?
Yes.
Did it have both audio and video?
Yes.
State will move to admit Exhibit 120.
Any objection?
No objection.
120 is admitted.
Yes, if we could move to the And if we could just show at the beginning we missed where. All right. So when you had your Ring video, would it sometimes like glitch and you'd see a vehicle like we saw in the beginning, a black vehicle?
Yes.
So in this video, were you asked to look for vehicles and a sound of any shooting?
I remember being asked to look for a vehicle crossing in that time, and I saw that at the beginning of the vehicle you see, or the video, you see the vehicle, and that was what I noticed first.
Okay. And then when you were watching it yourself, you heard a bang noise?
Correct.
And so, given that, looking for the black vehicle and then you noticing the bang, that's what you sent to the police?
Yes.
And that's your home sort of looking out, as we said, of Fisher and Fairview.
Yes.
Thank you. State has no other questions for this witness.
Cross-examination?
No, Your Honor, no cross.
Any questions for this witness from the jury? Don't see any. Ma'am, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, members of the jury, we took Mr. Boudreaux's cross-examination out of order. We're now going to complete that, so I'm going to ask Mr. Boudreaux to come back up. All right, sir, go ahead and have a seat on the witness stand. You're still under oath. I'll just remind you to try to speak into that microphone. All right, the defendant can start her cross-examination of this witness.
Okay, I want everybody to brace yourselves. I have no idea what's going to come out of her mouth. I was wholly and completely invested in the Karen Reed trial today. So I don't know what this is. I don't know what she's going to say. I don't know if any of it's going to be triggering, but let's just keep in mind, it's friggin' Lori. Anything is possible. So viewer discretion. All right, here we go.
Your Honor, when Robert Abernathy gets here, he has some photos and things I need to have marked. So can we stop for a minute when he gets here to do that? Okay.
Just have him go right up to the clerk when he gets here. And
Okay. Mr. Boudreaux, you and I met in 2009, is that correct?
I believe we met in 2008.
Okay. Before you got married, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you got married in 2009, is that correct?
I believe I was married October 31st, 2008.
Okay.
Well, you're out to a great
That's when you
start.
met. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So we've known each other a long time. Is that correct?
A long time can mean a lot of different things.
Since 2008.
Correct.
Okay. And we had a familial connection, is that correct?
Yes.
And we always had a friendly relationship, you and I, is that correct?
I wouldn't say always.
Okay. Until what time?
Until probably end of 2018.
Okay. And we spent many holidays together.
We did.
And you and Melanie were married a little over 10 years, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I was there at your wedding, is that correct?
Correct.
And I came to Utah to help you when your first child was born, is that correct?
I'm going to object to relevance.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Correct.
And I was there when your second child was born, is that correct?
You were not present when my child was born, but
Well, I came to help and watched Braxy, so I was there.
you visited with you were with my family. Correct.
Okay. And I flew in from Hawaii when Blake was born to help with the kids, and I watched them while you and Melanie were at the
Gonna
hospital.
again
Is that correct?
Object again to character evidence.
Sustain.
And I did watch the kids when Breezy was born as well. Is that
Your Honor,
correct?
I'm going to object and ask
Sustained.
to go into 405 soon.
And we went on vacations together, you and I. Is that correct?
Gonna-
Ms. Vallow, okay, move on to relevant information, okay? You've established you have a relationship with him that's close family relationship since 2008. So,
Oh, Judge Boreski.
And you came to visit me in Hawaii a few times. Is that correct?
And Your Honor, I'm going to object.
I'm just asking in the sense that it was him coming to me.
all right,
There's things that happened there that I'm going to.
approach.
Okay.
I can't even believe that she's being allowed to approach. I wouldn't want her anywhere near me. Oh, now her counsel's her what is it called? Advisory. Geez, Jen, I'm tired, you guys. I've been streaming since 7:55 this morning. Now her advisory council has decided to show up. Lord Jesus. Look, oh, Lori's very impassioned. I could skip through this, but I'm not gonna because I like to see this. This is a good, trying to figure out what she's getting at here. And please, 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 please let her get into character. Please, 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 please. This jury needs to hear all the things. All of it. Oh dear. All right. Oh, thank you, Tess. I appreciate that, babe. I couldn't do it without you, really. You, the chat, all of you guys. I couldn't. I'm so glad. I'm so grateful for you guys, for reals. No, Nate, we don't know what
You and I had
Lori's
never had an
done with her
argument
due.
each other. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Okay, when did we ever have an argument? You and I.
I'm going to object to relevance. If there's something specific about that, are we talking in 10 years?
I'll overrule it. You can answer.
The most recent argument that I would say we have is when I was texting you in June.
That was June 25th, 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, Into the Weeds
Have you
podcast.
been
Good to
upset
see
with me
you.
before that time?
Are you talking about ever in our lives?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're all human. I'm sure there was times I was upset with you.
Is there something specific that you were upset with me about before the June 25th text messages?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance if there's something more specific.
Sustain.
Were you upset with me about Juice Island?
I'm going to object as to relevance and 404.
Sustain.
What in the French toast is Juice
And then you
is
had
Juice
mentioned
Island?
before that Melanie and I were close. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you were aware that I loved Melanie. Is that correct?
I can't say if you loved her or not.
But you saw that over the 10 years that you were married to her, right? You witnessed it with your own eyes.
What is it you're asking that I witnessed?
Me loving Melanie.
As I said, I can't state what you did or did not feel. I can't say what you felt.
But I acted in a way that was loving towards her, in as far as you knew.
I'm going to object again to relevance, 404 and 405 character evidence.
Sustain.
So we were all together as a family frequently, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there were times when we were at your house as well as my house, is that correct?
An objection to relevance.
Sustained.
Hey, Steph, good to see you.
And until you sent me that text message on June 25th that we read yesterday, you and I had never had any disagreements with each other. Is that correct?
I would not agree with that statement.
You and I had ever had an argument?
Can you ask that question again?
Did you and I ever have an argument?
And again, as to foundation of when,
I'll allow him to answer. You can answer.
I'm sure we had, I don't know how you would define argument, but disagreements.
Face to face, you and I? Before the June 25th?
Hold on.
That's all I'm asking. Just before
Okay,
that.
maybe rephrase it.
So by the time we met in 2008 until June 25th, 2019, did you and I ever have an argument?
Is there something you're looking for that you're trying to specify? And I'm not sure I can, that's a broad question that I can't think of a specific time where we argued face to face, if that's what you're looking for.
Correct. So you and I have never had an argument in our lifetimes.
I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that there have for sure been disagreements between us, but I can't think of a specific time that I could share where me and you face to face argued. I'm not a confrontational person.
Okay. You've known me for all these years. Am I a confrontational person?
and I'm going to object to character evidence under 404 and 405.
Sustained.
Would you agree that I supported you as a husband and a father to your children?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained.
So in your testimony yesterday, you talked about this long argument that you had with Melanie. Was that on the same day, on June 25th, 2019?
It was.
Okay. And you said it was a long argument. How long did that go on?
It started in the afternoon and it went through past midnight.
So several hours.
Yes.
And you remember this date because that was the day you sent me those text messages. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's the only reason I remember that date. It's a painful date.
Okay. So you remember that date specifically?
Yeah, I do remember that day.
Okay. And you had mentioned that this argument started as a result of Melanie not wanting to attend your grandfather's funeral. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were aware that Melanie had trauma with all funerals because her mother passed away when she was 9. Is that correct?
Object to relevance.
I'll overrule the objection. He can answer if he knows the answer.
I can't say why Melanie was feeling the way she was feeling. I'm not Melanie.
But you know she had an issue with funerals before your grandfather passed away.
As I said, I'm not Melanie. I can't say what she had an issue with or not.
But you're aware that her mother passed away when she was 9, right?
Yes, I'm aware.
So what you would want to ask here is, and this only calls for a yes or a no answer. What you'd want to ask here is, are you aware if Melanie had negative feelings about funerals? That's it. That's all. But you're so smart, Lori. Keep going, idiot.
Where her mother passed away.
And that she had to go
Jesus.
to the funeral.
I'm going to object to relevance.
I'll sustain it at this point. Go ahead. Next question.
But she's your wife of 10 years, so you knew that about her. Is that correct?
And again, I'm going to object to relevance, the same
Abstain.
question.
It's completely understandable that you would want your wife at your side at your grandfather's funeral. So a disagreement between a couple would begin over that issue. That's not
Objection to
far-fetched, right?
testifying.
That's a statement. Can you if you want to phrase it as a question, go ahead.
So your argument began because of this issue with not wanting to go to your grandfather's funeral. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was Melanie upset or crying at that point?
No, just me.
Okay. So during this long, several-hour disagreement, you would have covered a myriad of topics. Is that correct?
Can you define a myriad of topics?
Just several different things probably came up during this very long argument.
We talked about several different things, yes.
Okay. And one of those things I had come up in the conversation. Is that correct?
One of the things that came up was you getting your temple recommended and me hacking your computer.
So I'm saying I was brought up in that long conversation just the one time?
I don't know if I could say just the one time. It was quite a long time we spent on that particular topic, which was bothersome.
Okay. So as you were trying to change the subject, Melanie was going back to that?
As I was trying to understand why it was important to her, she focused very much on the subject, yes.
Okay. And you had stated before that Melanie saw me as a mother to her. Is that correct?
I said a mother-like figure.
Right. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that your mother-in-law would be brought into a very long argument. Is that correct?
Objection, speculation, relevance.
Or someone close to your wife.
Sustained.
But I was not the focus of that entire argument. Is that correct?
My focus was my family, my wife and my children. I love them and I didn't want them to go through pain.
Is that what you spent all those hours arguing?
Yeah, because I love them and I wanted to work through things with my wife, yes. I didn't spend it for any other reason.
And during this argument, there were several issues that you discussed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And one of those issues was Melanie informing you of text messages that she had viewed?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Is one of those issues a video of you on Facebook dancing at the pink pony that Melanie showed you?
Object to relevance, to 404B evidence, and 403.
Sustained.
Did Melanie show you a video of yourself
Object
during
again
that
to the same
argument?
manner.
Sustained.
What else was discussed in this argument?
Objection, relevance, foundation, something specific.
I'll sustain the objection.
How many topics would you say were gone over during this long interview, long argument?
Lori, what is your point? This is not what he's here to testify to. This isn't about his. No. Why are you asking these questions?
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Why are you bringing this up as if this has anything? It doesn't have anything to do with anything. You're so ridiculous.
Couldn't say.
Jeez.
So until Did I ever answer the text messages that you sent to me?
I never received a reply.
Were you at that point blaming me for that argument? In your mind?
I think that the only people who can be responsible for ourselves is ourselves, so I was focused on myself and my wife.
Okay. So that argument ended up beginning your divorce proceedings, is that correct?
At the end of that argument, she told me that she needed a divorce, correct?
And who filed for divorce?
I did.
And when was that?
In July.
Do you know the date that you filed?
It's complicated because I went and met with a mediator, but she didn't file the paperwork for a while. So I guess it depends on how you define who filed for it and when.
Okay. Did you file it with the court? Like file for divorce with the court?
A mediator did.
Okay. Oh, so you don't know when she actually put the paperwork in, is that correct?
Correct.
When did you meet with her? Do you remember that?
I do.
What day was that?
In July.
But you don't remember which day in July?
We met several times.
Okay. Did you meet with her on your own, or did you and Melanie just meet with her together?
We met with her together.
Every time?
Yes, every time we went together.
Okay. And that started in July?
Correct.
And do you know when that was final?
Mid-October.
And you were able to come to mutual agreements during that time? With the mediator?
Can you give me more? What are you looking for specifically on that?
I'm just saying the mediation was completed, so you came to your agreements. Is that correct?
We filed for divorce, so yes.
Okay. So when was it that Melanie moved into the rental house from the house that you were living together in?
I believe I moved her on July 14th, I believe. I'm not certain.
And then you stayed in the house until what date?
Until my home sold.
When was that?
We got it under contract in September, beginning of September, and closing was October 1st.
Okay. And when did you move into your rental house? What day was that?
Mid-September to late September. It might have been in the 25th, 24th, 26th, somewhere in there.
And then you had schedule with the children, is that correct?
Can you ask that question?
I'm just saying you had agreed to a schedule with the children, is that correct?
Part of our divorce, we had a schedule, yes.
And so on October 2nd, all 4 children were with you, is that correct?
It depends on what time you're speaking about.
Well, they spent the night with you, so they would have woke up with you on October 2nd, is that correct?
On October 2nd night, they slept with their mom. On October 1st night, they slept with me.
Okay. That night turned into October 2nd, is that correct?
If you're saying October 2nd in the morning, then yes, that would be, my kids would have still been at my house in the morning.
Yes, okay. And then you had taken them to school, is that correct, in the morning?
Correct.
You said that you guys got up, you had food, you were getting ready,
Yes.
normal, typical morning, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you dropped off your two oldest at their elementary school, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you took Breeze to her mom and dropped her off at the park, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you took Blake to his preschool and dropped him off, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then where did you go from there?
I went to the gym.
What was the name of your gym? I'm sorry.
EOS.
And you worked out for, you said, an hour to an hour and a half?
Yeah, I wasn't watching it super close, so I can't tell you exactly how long it was.
Okay. And then you drove straight home, is that correct?
From the gym, yes.
Now, on that day, you had an interview with Detective Pillar, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the first time that you met Detective Pillar?
Yes.
Was on that day on October 2nd, 2019?
Correct.
And in that interview, you told him basically what had happened, is that correct?
I answered the questions that he asked, yeah.
And you told him all about Melanie, is that correct?
It's a pretty broad question. I don't know that I could say that I told him all about Melanie.
So you discussed Melanie, is that correct?
We did, yes.
And you discussed me, is that correct?
We did, yes.
And he had asked you kind of what happened, is that correct?
He asked me what happened? Yes, he asked me what happened.
And you talked about your divorce, is that correct?
We did discuss parts of my divorce, yes.
And you had told Detective Pillar that someone had convinced her that you were gay, is that correct?
Can you ask that question again?
You had told Detective Pillar that that someone had convinced Melanie that you were gay.
I can't remember if I specifically told him that someone had convinced Melanie that I was gay. I would have to review the conversation I had with him to be able to say for certain that's how I worded it.
Okay. Do you recall telling him that she has a friend named Lori? Melanie?
I did not say she has a friend named Lori, no.
You didn't? Would you like to would you like to look at your interview?
I
To refresh
said
your
that
recollection?
I said that she has an aunt named Lori.
Would you like to review this to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Okay.
Have your Ms. Hicks? I think she has a exhibit she needs to approach with. She just wants to show him to refresh his memory.
I apologize.
If you want to just read that page to yourself, and then I can ask you a question again. Okay, thank you. Did that refresh your memory, Brandon?
I read that. I think that maybe a transcriptionist miswrote that, because I wouldn't have referred to you as a friend named Lori. I would have referred to you as an aunt named Lori.
Okay. And it was me that you were talking about that convinced her that you were gay? Is that what you were referring to?
In that context, I never said that Lori is the one who convinced Melanie that I was gay.
Okay. So in the second paragraph, it didn't say she's the one that convinced her that I'm gay?
Improper impeachment, refreshing. I'm not sure what she's doing.
Sustain.
Would you like to read it again?
If you would like me to, I can read it again.
Okay. It's line 251. Thank you. Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I read a different line. That is the in 251. I did specifically say that I thought you.
That I had convinced her.
Can you ask that
That
question?
I had convinced Melanie that you were gay?
I said that I specifically thought that you had been involved in convincing her that I'm gay. Yes, correct.
Okay. And so she did not show you herself a video of you dancing at the Pink Pony. Is that
Again, Your
correct?
Honor, to relevance to
Sustained.
404B.
It's all sustained.
And what was your understanding of how I convinced Melanie of this accusation?
Kind of speculation.
Can we sidebar?
Okay, I Googled, all right, and the Pink Pony Club is a song, but that's not what she's talking about. It's actually just a restaurant in Scottsdale, like a nice restaurant. It's a historic restaurant. That's it. That's all. I don't know. I don't know if Lori is living out some footloose fantasy where dancing is a sin. I don't know what the big deal is about the Pink Pony. And yes, Tess, it's closed, for the love of Pete. I think Lori's hair smells like sulfur because she's a demon. I don't understand what her point is, but she's let in all this character stuff at this point, and I think she's well and truly opened this door. Trina, get her. Because this is ridiculous. We can't hear anything. I'm skipping through this. All we can see is Lori shaking her head a bunch. Still shaking her head. All right, here we go. I think they took a break. Let's rewind and see what happened. Hold on. Oh, that won't work if I'm not on the screen. What did...
All right, please be seated. The jury is no longer present.
Uh-oh.
We've concluded that sidebar. A record's been made. I would just caution the defendant. Again, she needs to be very careful, and she's getting into areas that could open a huge door that I don't think she wants open. I'm going to make another record at 10:24 to 10:25. We held a sidebar that I don't think made it onto the court record. That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she's a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be 405.
Yeah, they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you...
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on...
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. So
And would you
talk
like...
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either. I'm...
okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very courteous. I'm very courteous to you.
No, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory counsel about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
Oh my God. I'm rewinding it. I need to hear that again. I need to see that again. I don't even care. Here we go.
No longer present. We've concluded that sidebar. A record's been made. I would just caution the defendant. Again, she needs to be very careful, and she's getting into areas that could open a huge door that I don't think she wants open. I'm going to make another record at 10:24 to 10:25. We held a sidebar that I don't think made it onto the court record. That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she's a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be
Yeah,
405.
they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you...
Then
you
all
have-
404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on,
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could
Okay.
include being convicted of 4 murders.
and
So,
would you
talk
like,
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
you don't
maybe
need to yell at me either.
yelling
I'm,
at you, okay?
yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk
Okay,
to me that way. I'm
take her
very
out.
courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to you.
Take her out. No, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings.
Nowhere near courteous.
Talk with your advisory counsel about the rest of your cross in 15 minutes.
Kick her out. She's so rude. You haven't been courteous, Lori. You keep using that word, and it does not mean what you think it means. Just shock her. That's what I would have done. I would have zapped her. All right, here we go. Skip through, skip through, skip through.
The parties are present, the jury is not present.
All right, here we go.
The parties are present, the jury is not present. Ms. Daybell, if you continue to ask lines of questions where I've sustained an objection, into areas where I've sustained an objection, if you continue to speak over me or the prosecutor when it's not your turn to speak, I will give you a chance to speak and make any record that's made. If you continue to do all these things, I may be forced to revoke your pro per status.
I understand, Your Honor. I apologize.
Are we ready to continue with the cross-examination?
Yes, and I'm just going to ask a few questions of clarification.
Go ahead.
I mean, when we get up there, that's fine. I'm just going to clarify a few things, and then I'll move on
You mean with me or with the witness?
with the witness.
Okay, go ahead and get ready at the podium.
I like how he did not accept her apology because FUB.
Depending on when we finish with this witness, we'll determine when we break for lunch, I guess. It depends on who you have next. We could go to like 12:15 and then start again at 1:15. We can be flexible, but so I guess let's see where we are when we finish with this witness. All right, let's bring the jury in.
I don't even see how Lori's supposed to be allowed, how she's even allowed to be moving about when the jury is entering. But if it were me and I were holding the clicker, I would probably have zapped her out of an abundance of caution because who knows what she's doing. Is she walking to the podium? Is she walking to attack the witness, the judge? Who knows? I would have zapped her. That's just me. I agree.
Members of the jury, please be seated. Thank you. I just had to take care of a legal issue. We'll continue with the cross-examination of this witness. Go ahead.
Hold on, Lori. I believe we all do want to turn with the zap button, but I do think that we all decided last hearing that Bindi, me, was going to be in charge and the representative of the ward for the zap button. But I would gladly take turns with all of you. All right, here we go.
Yesterday in your testimony, Mr. Boudreaux, you talked about your argument on July 25th. Is that correct? I mean, on June 25th with your wife. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you had marital problems in those 10 years or no?
Objection, relevance.
I'll allow it briefly. Go ahead.
Can you define marital problems?
Well, like a course of contention, were there other courses of contention in your marriage during those 10 years?
If you've been married for 10 years, there's definitely times where you don't agree.
Absolutely. So would the fact that you traveled a lot during those 10 years been a course of contention?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained.
But there are other issues besides what happened that day on June 25th. Is that correct?
Can you re-ask that question?
Like you said, a marriage has issues if you're married for 10 years. That's correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question that you're asking. Can you ask it one more time?
Okay. You had stated that, I'll move on so I can be more clear. You had stated that to Detective Pillar that Melanie had been going to the temple all the time. Is that correct?
I can't say for certain I stated that to him, but she did go to the temple often, yes.
And that she had prayed about it and God had answered her in a call. Is that correct?
I can't say for certain that I told him that she had prayed about it and God had answered her in a call. If you have a transcript where I could read, I would be happy to read that to verify.
Okay. That's line 240 and 241.
Thank you. That's not what I read there.
Okay. Do you like to tell me what you read?
I'm going to object to improper, I don't know, impeachment, refreshing.
Yeah, maybe, I think what you should do is look at it and maybe rephrase your question.
Okay.
Go ahead and hand it back.
So you had said that God answered her in a call.
Hang on before he answers this. Okay, you guys are all wondering what if this has any relevance. God, I can't even believe I'm saying this. All right. I think what Lori's trying to do is go to motive, that she would have no motive to, that she's not the one who influenced Melanie. It's not her fault. It's not, she wasn't the reason behind the divorce. And therefore, in her convoluted mind, somehow this absolves her and it proves that she had no motive to want Brandon no longer alive. It doesn't prove that. It's, she's just, oh God, let me just stop.
In reference to the temple?
In reference to Melanie saying that she thought you were gay.
I did, in her saying that she thought I was gay, but that didn't have anything to do with the temple, which was the question you were asking me earlier.
Yeah, so I was saying she frequented the temple. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That was a separate issue. So I was asking that she was convinced of this because God answered her in a call, is what you told Detective Pillar. Is that correct?
What is of this?
Of the fact that she was saying that you were gay.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be, can you ask that question again?
I'm trying to get to the fact that she had her own personal revelation of that idea about you.
I can't say what she was thinking I can't say why
But she had
made
conveyed
choice.
that to you, that she had a God answer her in a call?
I'm going to object to hearsay at this point.
Sustain.
Where did you get that information?
Which information are you asking?
Okay. The information that you gave to Detective Pillar that God answered in a call, what was that in reference to?
The line before it was me explaining that I'd have to read the line again. I can't say exactly, but my understanding is that you're speaking about me referencing her talking about me being gay.
Correct. And you're saying that she's the one that prayed about it and God answered her in a call. Is that correct?
Can I read it again? I would like to
sure.
answer the question the best I can.
Yes. It's 240 and 241.
This has, look, it's not that I understand her, okay? I don't understand Lori. But I think after covering her for so long, this is so scary to me. Maybe I do need an intervention. After covering her for so long and listening to her arguments, it feels to me like that's what she's trying to do. And it's not going to work. It's not really admissible. And all it's doing is,
So that's what where did you get that information that you gave to Detective Pillar that she prayed about it and God answered her in a call?
I can't tell you for certain. I'm guessing that what I was sharing with them there was pertaining to my thoughts on our conversation from June 25th.
Okay, so on June 25th, Melanie conveyed to you that she had this belief about you herself. Is that correct?
On June 25th,
I'm going to rewind and we're going to hear it again. Crocheting Bambi says, I think she's trying to tarnish his reputation in the church. I think there's truth to that as well. I think this is layered. Lori is an extremely vengeful person. And you see how she believes, for whatever reason, it doesn't have to be true, but she believes that there were multiple people conspiring to get her temple recommend taken away. Okay. And this is part and parcel of her wanting to, this is a little bit of payback. So, I think there's multiple things going on here at the same time. It's sad though. It's unnecessary. Lori, you're just ridiculous.
That she had this.
I'm guessing that what I was sharing with them there was pertaining to my thoughts on our conversation from June 25th.
Okay, so on June 25th, Melanie conveyed to you that she had this belief about you herself. Is that correct?
On June 25th, Melanie told me that she believed that I was gay. Correct.
That she herself had that belief.
Yes.
Not that that belief had come from me, but that belief had come from herself.
Are you asking me whether or not I think that belief came from you?
No, I'm saying, did she convey to you that she had that belief, period?
Yes.
Okay. And then later in the next line, you tell Detective Pillar, you convey to him that I convinced her of that fact.
Yes.
Okay. What made you believe I convinced her of that fact?
Conversations I'd had with Charles Vallow.
Okay. So did you hear me tell that to Melanie Boudreaux?
No.
Did you ever witness me talking to her about you?
Did I witness you talking to Melanie about me?
Correct.
At any point?
About this topic, about being gay?
No, I did not witness you talking to her about this topic.
Okay. So you heard it from a third party, supposedly.
I heard it from Charles Vallow.
Okay. But not from me directly. Is that correct?
Whoever's in charge of the zapper now. This is
So
ridiculous.
on
Just
this
zap
day,
her.
on October 2nd, you conveyed these things to Detective Pillar. Is that correct? That she has a friend named Lori.
Can you ask that question again?
Yes. To Detective Pillar on October 2nd, you conveyed to him that Melanie has a friend named Lori.
As I stated, I think that that's a typo. I believe I said aunt named Lori.
Okay. So she has an aunt named Lori, which would be me. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she's the one who convinced her that I'm gay. Is that correct?
That's, yes, correct.
But you didn't get that information from me or from Melanie. Is that correct?
I would not say that that's correct.
Okay. You got that information from Melanie?
I got what information from Melanie?
Did you get information from Melanie that I convinced her that you are gay?
I inferred from conversations that I had with her that you were the one convincing her that I was
You
gay.
inferred from conversations?
Correct.
Okay. But she did not convey to you. Lori's the one that convinced me, and I know this now to be a fact because Lori is the one that convinced me of this.
She never said those words to me, no.
Okay. And she showed you a video that she found on Facebook.
I'm going to object
I'm not going to say.
again to
Okay.
404B evidence, to extrinsic evidence, to relevance, to 403 evidence.
Okay. Sustained. We're not talking about the video.
She had her own reasons that she personally believed these things that had nothing to do with me. Is that correct?
Asked and answered.
Well, I'm
And
also going to
relevance.
sustain the form of the question on Melanie's belief.
Melanie conveyed to you that she had several reasons why she had this, why she was making this accusation to you. Is that correct?
I can't say how many reasons she said. It's been a long time. But I mean, we discussed it at length for a while, and both parties shared their reasons why it was confusing.
Okay. And so Detective Pillar had asked you if she had any sort of evidence to this. Is that correct?
I believe he did, yes.
Okay. And would you like to see your answer to that?
I would love to, yes.
Okay. It starts at line 675.
Whatever her advisory council told her, neat noodle, she ain't listened. She's going to end up opening this door.
What did you convey to Detective Pillar at that time when he asked you what sort of evidence that you had?
I told him that it's silly evidence.
I'm sorry, what?
It's silly evidence.
You told him there was silly evidence?
Yes.
What did you tell him specifically?
Your Honor, I'm going to object again as to relevance.
Well, it's also hearsay. Sustained.
So how are you aware that Melanie had this silly evidence?
And I'm going to object again to just relevance into this area and 404B again.
He can answer the question, how was he aware where he got this information? But other than that, the objection sustained.
From conversations with her.
Okay. So she didn't show it to you? She just talked to you about it?
Again, object, Your Honor. I don't know how many times we can object like
Sustained.
this.
Let's move on.
So you called it silly evidence and vague evidence, is that correct?
I'm not sure about vague. I could have.
Is it contradictory for you to tell Detective Pillar on that same day, in the same interview, that I convinced Melanie and that she had her own individual evidence that she presented to you?
I don't believe that that's contradictory, no.
You don't believe that's contradictory?
No.
So how is it that you think I convinced her?
As I shared, I had conversations with other people who shared that that was something that you were doing.
But you never heard them from me or from Melanie, is that correct?
I did not.
Okay. When you were talking to Detective Pillar that day, he had asked you, have you ever seen that vehicle before? And I'm sure he's referring to the Jeep Wrangler. Do you remember what you answered him?
It would be great if I could read it.
Okay. It's line 597.
Okay, but there are exceptions to the 404 rule, okay, which would be character evidence. And here are some of the exceptions, like in Alec Murdaugh's trial, okay? It's also prior bad acts. All right, so in this case, for her, the prior bad acts would be all the other people she murdered that she's been convicted of. That's a prior act. But if she starts opening the door as if she's not the type of person who would try to come to interfere in their marriage, like she's trying to prove that she is not the person that convinced Melanie that Brandon might be gay, which I hate even saying that because it's so ridiculous, but because it's ridiculous. Anywho, it feels like it's being used as an insult, and I don't like that. So anyway, if she's going to insist on continuing to try to prove that she's not the type of person that would do that, that goes to character, okay? How you open the door to that is like with Alec Murdaugh, all right? So when Jim Griffin asked one of the witnesses on cross-examination about a part of a financial crime, okay, he opened the door because they don't want the jury, they want the jury, right, to hear the evidence about what the accusations are in this case, okay, so that they're not prejudiced in thinking that, well, you've done A, B, and C before, so you are the type of person who would commit this crime, okay? There are times when that stuff can come in when it is considered more probative than prejudicial, but that requires a separate hearing. Okay, there we go.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. So he had asked you if you had ever seen that vehicle before, and what did you convey to him?
Not that I could recall.
Okay. And then he asked you to tell him more about the Jeep, and you gave him a color. What color did you say that you thought the Jeep was?
I believe olive or puke green.
Okay. And that you had never seen that Jeep before?
Objection asked and answered.
Had you ever seen the Jeep in my household before?
Are you asking what I said that day, or are you asking me today?
I'm asking you today. Before October 2nd, had you seen the Jeep in my household before?
I might have. I don't remember for certain.
Okay. And what color do you think the Jeep that was in my household was?
Are you asking what I think it is today, or are you asking what I thought it was that day?
I'm asking what you thought it was before October 2nd.
I don't know that I thought a lot about it, to be honest with you.
And you had never seen it before?
As I said, I can't recall for certain whether or not I had seen it before.
And it had never been parked at your house?
Which house are you talking about?
Your Quinn house.
It could have been. I can't recall.
Okay. And so before October 2nd, you were aware that there was a Jeep Wrangler in my household, is that correct?
Before October 2nd,
Yes.
I believe that at one point, Charles had called me to have me run VINs on all your vehicles because he was looking at insurance at the time. And so I did get the VIN for that vehicle.
Okay, so you knew the details of that vehicle prior to October 2nd, is that correct?
I had received them from him. I hadn't thought about it again.
Okay, but when he gave you those, did you look up the VIN numbers before October 2nd in doing that research for the insurance?
When he gave them to me, I used those numbers to run a report that would allow me to see what options he could have for insurance.
And in that research, were you made aware of the details of the Jeep?
I didn't dive into the details, no.
Okay, so were you aware at that time that it was like a 2-door Jeep or a 4-door Jeep, any of those kinds of details? Before October 2nd?
I can't honestly recall whether or not he told me. I don't know that I needed to know that or that it was something I was thinking about at all.
Okay. But that day it came to your mind, is that correct?
Which day are you talking about?
October 2nd.
Can you give me a little more context on what you're looking for came to my mind?
Oh, on that day, you stated that it was a 2-door Wrangler. Is that correct?
In my conversation with Detective Pillar? Is that what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I probably, it would be better if I read it, if that's okay.
Sure. It's 6:02.
That's an excellent, I can't highlight that,
So you
obviously.
told Detective Pillar, or you conveyed?
Shut up, Lori. I can't highlight Sarah Bellum's response and about prior bad acts, but go in the chat and look at it because it actually is a really good explanation. Thank you, Sarah, for that. I still need to get with you. I haven't forgotten. I just got to figure out time.
To him that it was a 2-door Wrangler, is that correct?
When we're talking about the Jeep that I saw that day, yes, I saw a 2-door Wrangler.
And so my question is, were you aware if the Jeep Wrangler in my household was a 2-door Wrangler or a 4-door Wrangler prior to October 2nd?
As I said earlier, I didn't think about the Jeep that was in your household prior to October 2nd. It wasn't something I had ever thought about other than taking a VIN and running it for insurance for Charles.
Okay. But that's how you acquired the VIN number for that vehicle?
That is how I acquired it.
And when was that about? About what time frame?
I couldn't even tell you. I can't remember.
When did you start doing that car insurance business, auto insurance?
The end of 2018, some point towards the end, one of the last few months of 2018.
Okay. So sometime within that year, he had you run all those numbers just to see if we could get a better insurance rate. Is that correct?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you when exactly.
Okay. Let's go to that day of October 2nd. In your interview with Detective Peller, you had mentioned that you saw a little boy. Is that correct?
No.
To ask for some foundation.
Yeah, can you narrow
Okay.
that down a
Sure,
little more?
sure. Sure. In your narrative that you're talking to tell what happened to Detective Pillar in your interview, okay? Can I just show it to you and have you?
Your Honor, if she could just ask a question and properly
hold on.
question the witness.
I would suggest you just ask, did you see a little boy that day?
Okay,
If that's what you're getting at.
okay. Did you see a little boy that day, right after the glass had shattered?
No, I did not see a little boy that day.
Okay. And why did you tell that to Detective Pillar if you didn't see a little boy?
I don't believe I ever said that to Detective Pillar.
Okay. Would you like to see your interview?
Sure.
Oh my God.
It's 4:04.
I need to hear. I'm curious about this because, as you know, some of us have suspected that
You
Melanie
might want to read that whole
B
paragraph to
was
get some
there
context.
and she helped Alex.
I believe that's a typo.
So what did you think that you said that that's a typo of?
In that context, I was describing the window breaking. Without listening to that conversation, I couldn't tell you what the final word I said was, but I'm pretty confident I did not describe seeing a little boy there.
Okay, so that isn't why you thought that it was a paintball gun, because there was a little boy there?
That is correct. I did not think it was a paintball gun because there was a little boy.
Okay. And so you didn't say you thought it was kids just being kids?
I'd have to review if there's a line where I talked about that.
Okay. .406 to 414.
I think this is context. I think that Lori is trying to conflate two separate situations. Initially, Mr. Boudreaux did think that it was a paintball gun because he didn't realize that his window had been shattered. And also, yes, kids being kids is not the same as seeing a little boy there. Like, Lori, what the F are you doing, you idiot?
So you conveyed to Detective Pillar that you saw a little boy, you thought it was like a paintball gun or something?
I would object to
that
him
correct?
saying that. He did not say he said that.
Right, sustain.
So after reading that, do you recall saying something like that?
The context of what I was saying there was I was describing my thoughts that I was talking to the dispatcher when I mentioned the paintball gun. And the context that I was explaining was that my window was broken. And so without seeing a bullet, as I've described earlier, I thought possibly it could be a paintball gun.
Okay. And on your street that day, on October 2nd, were there kids on the street playing paintball?
No,
Oh. Were there kids anywhere walking around?
no.
And what time was this?
What time was what?
The time of this alleged shooting?
9 o'clock in the damn morning, Lori, you know this.
I can't say the exact time without looking at when I called 911 right after. So whatever time that was that I called 911.
Okay, so in the morning time, right?
Correct.
And it was like a bright sunny day that day?
Correct.
Okay. So So you conveyed to him that you were thinking it was just kids being kids, you know, like a broken window?
I did not convey that to him, no.
You did not say that on line 416?
I conveyed to him what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher.
It's a
So
past,
why were you telling that to Detective Pillar if you did not?
because it was a past memory, you idiot. This is like that freaking stun belt all over again. Shut up.
Believe that.
I just explained why.
Which was what?
I was explaining my thoughts when I was talking to the dispatcher.
So he wasn't asking you a direct question. You were just going over what you said to the 911 dispatcher?
I was explaining in that context that you're referring to what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher, when I said that I thought it might be a paintball gun.
But you had said before you were confused because you didn't even really know what was going on at that moment. Is that correct?
I would not say that's correct.
So you did not convey that maybe somebody really didn't shoot over here?
As I said, I was explaining to him in that context about why I had said to the dispatcher that I thought it might be a paintball gun.
But you didn't believe it was a paintball gun at that time?
Which time are you referring, when I'm talking to Detective Pillar or when I made the 911 call?
Both.
When I made the 911 call, I thought someone was shooting at me. But as I explained, I had the thought nothing had come through my window. So perhaps it was a paintball gun, which I shared with the 911 operator. And when I talked to Detective Pillar, I was certain that someone had shot at me. I could see the bullet hole in my car. And as soon as I saw that, I knew for certain that all of the other things made more sense. And that was exactly what happened.
Okay. So yesterday you talked about you kept driving, right? After
Yes.
you were shot at. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you went up to where the park was and pulled over. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you made a U-turn
Correct.
and went back to the house.
Correct.
So you didn't go around the block, but you went to the, just so I understand, you went to the pool, pulled over, turned around, and went straight back to the house.
It's a big loop. You can drive either way. I ended up driving the full loop. I think everybody has seen how those streets work. So
Correct.
I did a U-turn up by the park, and I came down around the other side and looped back.
Okay. So after the U-turn, you did the full loop around.
Yeah, I finished the loop.
Okay. That makes more sense to me now. Thank you. Then what? You drove back into the driveway? Is that correct? Did you go into the garage?
I did not go into the garage.
So you stayed out of in the driveway, is that correct?
I got out of my car, and like I said yesterday, it's a little bit hazy, but I waited and stayed on 911 until the police officer arrived.
Okay. Was your garage door open or closed?
As I explained, when you drive that Tesla, it automatically opens the door when you hit it inside of a certain range. It didn't trigger in the initial drive-through when I was shot at, but when I pulled in my driveway, it triggered, so the garage just automatically opens.
Okay. So when the shooting occurred, the garage door was not open, but after you came back around the loop and drove into your driveway, it did open that second time?
It opens the garage when you pull up, yes.
Okay. And you did not drive into the garage, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You stayed in the driveway.
Correct.
And did you stay in the exact same place where they took all the photos of the Tesla?
I put my keys up on the dashboard, and I didn't move the car until they were done.
Okay. And so we heard you on the 911 call where you stepped out and removed the window and then got back in. Is that correct?
Like I said, it's a little hazy. What happened is when you put that car into park, the door will automatically open. And the door automatically opened, the window fell, and from there I can't remember exactly what I was doing. I remember talking to the 911 operator. I may have walked a little bit towards the street a little or something, and then I just stood right there in the driveway and waited for the first officer to arrive.
Okay, so you were outside of your vehicle at that point when the window fell out?
I may have been. It's been 6 years, so I'm not 100% certain on that part of it.
Okay. But when you say that the window fell, did it fall to the ground, or it just kind of crumbled on the door?
Well, it was shattered, so most of it you could see in that picture stayed together and fell, and then a lot of it fell all over my seat, all over me, into the door frame. I could hear it all fall down in there. It fell a little bit everywhere.
Okay, but it was removed from the Tesla over to the side, so did you pick it up and move it, or it fell out over where it fell?
That piece fell because you got to remember the door's swinging out, so it automatically opens itself. If there's no sensor, then it'll move further.
Okay, so the window fell onto the ground by itself without any assistance from you?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut myself.
Okay, and then the little glass shards came out as well at that time?
Yeah, they were all over.
Okay, so you never moved the window after it fell out, is that correct?
I didn't touch it.
Okay. So where we see it in the pictures, that's where it landed?
Most likely. I can't tell you for certain.
Okay. And you may have walked to the end of the driveway, is that that's what you're testifying to?
What I testified to was that I can't remember for certain, but I stayed on the phone and may have walked, may not have, I'm not certain.
Okay. You had testified yesterday that you thought that the 911 operator told you to stay in the vehicle and you were staying in the vehicle, but you had gotten out earlier. Is that correct?
And when I listened to that call, I didn't hear her tell me to stay in the vehicle. So I don't think she did, but maybe she did. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly.
I think that you conveyed that she had told you that. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so then that conveyance must have been wrong on that.
Okay. So did any of that glass cut you? How were you careful to get out of there without getting cut by the glass?
I can't say for certain. I just think that I would have been careful. I wouldn't want to get cut by glass.
So it fell, when the window fell out, the glass fell in towards you onto your lap, or how did that work?
No. The big piece of the glass fell outward, which you can see, and then, I can't tell you how everything else fell. I don't have like a perfect memory of that. Just fell.
Okay. When you stepped out of the vehicle, the glass that was on you, did it fall to the ground?
I can't say for certain.
And when the police arrived, where were you located when they first drove up?
I believe I was located in my driveway or right near my driveway, and it was a woman who came.
Okay. And if you thought that you had just been shot at, were you not worried about standing there in the driveway where someone could drive by again?
The person that shot at me was in the Jeep, and I had seen them leave. Of course, I was scared for my life, but I was told to go back to my house, so that's where I went.
And I know it all happened quickly, but you were not worried about them maybe doing the loop and driving back around?
There's a lot of thoughts going through your mind when that happens.
Okay. And who arrived first? Who arrived first? Was it Officer Rob?
I can't tell you anybody's names.
Okay.
A woman.
Female officer.
Female officer.
Okay. And she began questioning you, is that correct?
Yes.
And you began to tell her what had happened?
I did my best to explain what happened.
And she, at some point, had taken her pin and stuck it in the bullet hole, is that correct?
I don't remember that.
And where were you standing when you were talking to Officer Rob?
At what point? I talked to her for a little bit, so we moved around.
Were you on the driveway
We talked on the driveway,
initially?
I believe on the sidewalk, yeah.
Okay. So was she trying to get you out of the crime scene area where all the glass was?
I can't say what she was trying to do. I'm not a police officer.
When was it that you called your friends to come over?
After I saw the bullet hole, realized that I was really close to being shot. I think think a little bit of shock kicked in. I remember feeling a little overwhelmed, and I remember they were very considerate. They, I think when my hands even started shaking, I remember. And then they told me, do I have someone that can be with me? And then my first thought was my dad, you know? He's kind of my strength. And then after that, I thought of my friends. I have two really good friends, and that's what I remember is they said I could call them. And so they just came and tried to make things lighthearted, make things easier.
So was that Officer Rob that gave you the permission to call your friends?
I can't tell you for certain.
So was that after she finished questioning you on the events of the day?
I can't tell you for certain on that either. I don't know.
Was it before another officer arrived?
Like I said, I can't tell you for certain.
And how long did it take for your friends to show up?
I don't know. I probably was in a little bit of shock. I don't remember how long any of those things were.
Okay. And you had two different friends that showed up. Did they come together?
I think they came separate.
And at that point, when they arrived, was the crime scene tape already up?
I don't remember.
And so they would have had to park outside of the crime scene tape, or you don't know?
I'm sure they did. I don't know, though. I can't testify to that.
And so they stayed with you during that whole day?
Yeah, they were awesome. They dropped everything and they just spent time with me.
And they stayed until the police left?
They did.
Did they stay after the police left?
Yeah, they did.
And you guys went into the house at that point?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did any of the offers enter the house? Any of the officers or any of the detectives?
You'd have to ask them. I think they said they had to clear the house, but I can't remember. Like I said, I think I was in a little bit of shock for a little bit there.
And do you know if any of the officers entered the garage?
I'm sure the people entered the garage, yes, at some point. I can't tell you when.
And when you got on the phone and called your friends, did you call them or did you just text them?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And who was it that came to help you that day, your friends?
My friend Mark Bell and my friend Chris Pierce.
Did either of them get interviewed by the police?
You'd have to ask the police. I'm not sure.
Did you see any of them getting interviewed by the police? Did the police ask them direct questions in front of you?
I can't recall.
So by the time they arrived, were you done with your interviews with police?
No.
So when you were having this interview with Detective Pillar, where were your friends?
When I left for my interview with Detective Pillar, we were all sitting in the shade over underneath the tree. I don't know where I was with Detective Pillar, so I don't know where they were at that time.
And where was your interview conducted with Detective Pillar?
Inside of his car.
In a police car?
Yeah. Okay.
And about how long do you think this interview lasted?
It's a long time ago. I don't know.
And then after you had your interview with Detective Pillar, you rejoined your friends?
I did.
Did you interview with anyone else besides Officer Rob and Detective Pillar?
Not that I can recall, but I may have talked to other officers. They might ask me questions.
So other officers were around there and they were asking you questions as well?
I didn't say that. I said I may have. I can't remember for certain.
So there were several people from the Gilbert Police Department in your vicinity on your property?
It seemed there was a lot of police there because a shooting occurred, I assumed. I don't know the police process.
But you don't remember anybody else asking you any specific questions. Is that correct?
I don't remember any questions that anybody specifically asked, and I don't remember if they asked me questions or not.
Any follow-ups to what Officer Rob had talked to you about or anything?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Brandon, how many communications since October 2nd until now have you had with Detective Pillar?
I have no idea.
How many phone calls would you say over the last 5.5 years?
No idea.
More than 10?
I'm sure more than 10, yes.
More than 20?
Like I said, I couldn't testify to the exact number, so I have no idea.
A lot?
I talked to him about my case.
More than 100?
I honestly can't tell you. I
He-
have never looked to.
Lori, he doesn't know. Why? What is the point of this? He's a victim of a crime. Of course, the lead investigator is going to speak to him.
Try and figure it out.
Idiot.
How about text message communications with you and Detective Pillar? How many times have you communicated with him through text message in the last 5.5 years?
I've never counted, so I don't know.
More than 10?
I'm sure it's more than 10.
More than 100?
That I can't testify to. I don't know.
How about emails to Detective Pillar?
Same
How many
thing.
email communications have you had with him in the last 5 years?
I can't testify. I don't know.
More than 10?
That I'm not sure. I couldn't even tell you if I have had more than 10.
Brandon, I'm going to show you what's marked as potential exhibit 192, defense exhibit.
Can I see it first?
I can't move past that hairdo. I cannot. She looks like a demon Charo.
Do you recognize that as an email between you and Detective Pillar?
I can't tell you what this is. I can tell you what it says. I can't tell you if this is something that, where it came from. I don't have any reference on it.
I am going to object, and maybe we can.
Let's break for lunch. Is the party's good with resuming at 1:15?
Yes.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take our lunch break. Please remember the admonition. We'll resume. Please be seated. The jury is no longer present. All right, so I've reviewed Exhibit 192. The line of your question was to establish that this witness has had contact with Detective Pillar over the years, in the last 5 years. This particular email is actually, appears to be 3 separate emails in a string from February 12th of 2020. So what's the purpose of this? Yeah, are you trying to admit it? What do you?
I would like to ask him about it.
What's relevant about it?
A lot of things, Your Honor.
What?
Judge, I can't hear her.
Please speak into the mic.
It's relevant to his discussion with Detective Pillar from the October 2nd date until this date on February 12th.
She said a lot of things first. First, she said it's relevant to a lot of things. Fucking Lori. Go ahead. Let's go.
What is relevant about it that is an issue for this jury to decide? That's what relevance means. It's something that this jury would either make something more or less probable for some fact that they need to decide.
It's relevant in the way that this email communicates that the information that was being given to the detectives was directly from Brandon Boudreaux.
I know, but what in the content of that email is relevant for this case?
The fact that the last line.
Did I miss something? What's the last line? At the bottom?
She's holding a weapon. Shocker.
Hold on. Make sure everyone can hear you and the court reporter can.
I would have to ask to see that as well. I don't.
So
know
the
what she's
the
talking
last
about.
line was Detective Pillar writes, is it Pillar or Pillar?
Pillar, like a pillar in a building.
Pillar. Detective Pillar writes, this information is requested so we can see if Melanie has any financial gain from your death, basically, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that creates motive for Melanie. It seems like I guess it's fair area for him to talk about in general, but it's also a fair area for you to talk to the detective about what areas they investigated. But let me hear the state's response. But as far as that particular email comes in, I mean, I suppose you could ask some questions about it, but let me hear from the state.
Judge, obviously that's a conglomeration of emails, so I don't know that that fully covers everything. Two, I guess the defendant has never raised a third-party defense. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that this was all Melanie Boudreaux, but that is actually an open investigation that is still ongoing. The state has.
Rachel, can you hear me? Rachel, everybody, but mainly Rachel, listen. Are you ready for this?
Conglomeration of emails, so I don't know that that fully covers everything. Two, I guess the defendant has never raised a third-party defense. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that this was all Melanie Boudreaux, but that is actually an open investigation that is still ongoing. The state has, obviously in trial, referred to her as an active member of this conspiracy. So I'm not sure if she's trying to admit that or just question him if he was providing information to the police. But the last thing I will, again, just in terms of opening the door, is she's made a big deal about the number of calls and text messages. And as I've indicated, there is still an open investigation against Melanie Boudreaux. And so many of that information might relate to that case, or it might also relate to the Tammy Daybell case, because there was information about that, as well as the Charles Vallow case. So to infer that all of those conversations related solely to this defendant, this incident, October 2nd, is probably a little disingenuous.
Were you intending to enter that as an exhibit, or just ask, were you asked to provide information that Melanie might have a motive?
I would like to admit it, and I would like to question him on it as well, yes.
About what? What specifically, you idiot? Are you hearing what they're saying? Oh my
What is the
God.
date page on
It's
that?
Bates 5465.
I don't know that there's anything in it that's particularly misleading or anything like that to the jury. I don't know how relevant it is, but I think to the extent that there may have been some questions about Melanie's participation and whether or not she had a motive are relevant. What's the state's response, I guess? I know she didn't notice third-party defense.
I'd also like, I'm very, very curious about what the status of Melanie BP's relationship is with Lori. And I would love to know how Lori actually feels about her, because in my opinion, this speaks to more to how Lori feels about her currently, particularly given her opening statement where she pointed out to the jury that she's the only one being held accountable for this. And also, Melanie cannot hear. Okay, if Judge Boreski allowed Melanie B to be noticed as a witness and Melanie B was served properly, then she would be under a sequestration rule and therefore would not actually be able to hear this directly. I just want to point that out.
So I'm asking now, is she doing that? Obviously, I have a right to know before the trial ends if that's an active defense she's asking for.
I am not, Your Honor. I'm trying to say the connection that I've been accused of with Melanie connects me to Melanie. So that's why I'm trying to establish, how am I connected to this? I didn't have a financial gain here. This is the financial gain through Melanie. This is conversations between the detective and Brandon that I want to question him on. I'm not trying to blame Melanie, is my point.
I have not alleged a financial gain for the defendant, so.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Said I have not alleged a financial gain. I've not alleged much of a motive because we are trying to keep out much of that. So
That was a leak. That was a leak. Let's hear it again.
Between the detective and Brandon, that's why.
know before the trial ends if that's an active defense she's asking for.
I am not, Your Honor. I'm trying to say the connection that I've been accused of with Melanie connects me to Melanie. So that's why I'm trying to establish, how am I connected to this? I didn't have a financial gain here. This is the financial gain through Melanie. This is conversations between the detective and Brandon that I want to question him.
I believe that this is a leak. Her saying, I didn't have a financial gain. No, not directly, but you controlled Melanie. And I believe that she actually leaked the motive behind why Brandon Boudreaux was shot at. That's what I think.
I'm not trying to blame Melanie, is my point.
I have not alleged a financial gain for the defendant, so.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Said I have not alleged a financial gain. I've not alleged much of a motive because we are trying to keep out much of that. So I guess, again, if we're going to start going into motives, then we have prior instance of the defendant having financial gain in the previous trial that we did here. So if we want to go into the whole overarching financial scheme and cult activities, then we can do that. But again, the state had decided not to bring in any of that. If we're going to do that, then obviously we'll change who all of our witnesses are.
All right, let me, rather than just make a knee-jerk ruling, I'll think about it. We'll take this up at about 1:10.
We'll be back, Judge. Don't you worry.
Please be ready to go at 1:10.
You too, Lori. Get your Tylenol and snack pack and let's go. Isn't this nice? We're not. Hold on. I think streaming the trial this way was genius. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but toot toot, because now we get to skip through all of this. All right, let's go.
All right, here's Exhibit 192. We're on the record. The parties are present. The jury is not present. In relation to Exhibit number 192 that we talked about before break, the defendant may ask the following question. You may want to write this down. In February of 2020, while this case was being investigated, did Detective Piller ask you to provide any documentation which might support whether Melanie had a financial motive for your murder or death, however you want to phrase that. The state may also ask follow-up questions on whether or not any financial motive existed, such as a life insurance policy. I don't know the answer to that, if she was the beneficiary of a life insurance policy. Additionally, the defendant has opened the door somewhat, and for now the state may ask in redirect a question along the lines of, all the communication you had with Detective Pillar in the last 5.5 years was not solely about this case, correct? Some of your communications with Detective Pillar were related to a separate investigation, correct? To the extent the door gets opened further than that, I guess depends on where the defendant goes for the rest of her cross. I don't see any reason to actually introduce that Exhibit 192 because it has other information on there as well. So that's the ruling.
Lori, thank you for being
Are we ready to bring the jury?
an absolute idiot. I think, you know what, you guys, I've been thinking about this. And how would you feel if after I'm done streaming the Karen Reed trial, like when that trial is over,
And
if
just to get ahead of the ball, when Detective Pillar eventually testifies, you would also be allowed to ask if he sought that type of information and why he would seek that type of information.
Yeah, definitely ask him why. I'm not actually, she was not on the state's witness list. She was not noticed as a witness for the state. However, I do know that I know Melanie Gibb and Zulema were noticed as witnesses for the defense, but I don't know about Melanie Gibb or Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But how would you guys feel if we did a delayed start and started at like 3:00 Central Time and did the trial like that, or maybe even later? Let me know.
All right, do you want to go ahead and get ready at the podium? We'll bring the jury in.
Yeah, let's go, Lori. Haul your cookies and your ridiculousness up there. Let's get this show on the road. You damn demon. I think so too. I think so too, Crocheting Bammy. But isn't it, I feel like if you were with me with over there today with the Karen Reed trial, we went through, there was a lot of BS today. I'm not even going to lie. And this feels, yes, Violet, for Lori, like a delayed start. Okay, Crocheting Bammy. Okay, cool.
All right, please be seated.
Hold
The
on.
jury's present. You can continue with your cross.
But hearing that it's an ongoing investigation with Melanie's, I like to call her Melanie BP, but hearing that there is an ongoing investigation gives me a little bit of peace, a measure of peace, because I do think she should be charged.
This witness.
I don't know, Violet. What do demons eat? Do they eat? Also, what is the fabric content of that jacket? Is that like ultra suede? Is that what that is?
In February of 2020, while this case was being investigated, did Detective Pillar ask you to provide any documentation to prove that Melanie, your ex-wife, had a financial gain at your death?
Yes.
And did you provide that information to him?
I believe I did.
How many documents would you say that was?
Is that, hold on a minute. I'm sorry,
Can't really make it
Brandon.
some more.
Is she wearing pleather? Is that what that is? Oh my God. I don't know why that actually makes me, I don't know, on some weird level, because I know it's hotter than 9 kinds of hell in Arizona right now. And the fact that hoe's wearing pleather, I don't know. Here we go.
Context around that?
Yes. So Detective Pillar asked you to provide him with some documentation of financial gain from your ex-wife, Melanie. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you did provide to him some documentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so what were those documents?
What did I provide to Detective Pillar about that?
Correct.
I have
Yes,
a
the
life
jury's
insurance policy.
present,
I
Rachel.
provided him with that.
What else?
Paul.
And you did provide to him some documentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
The jury is present. Sorry, I have a really bad habit sometimes of doing that, and I apologize.
And so what were those documents?
What did I provide to Detective Pillar about that?
Correct.
I had a life insurance policy. I provided him with that.
What else?
I'm not sure there's anything else I provided him.
Okay, did you provide the rental agreement for Melanie's address?
Are you talking about on that specific day or?
Ever?
I can't say for certain that I did, but I may have. I believe I had it. I believe I helped her when we were signing that.
Okay. So did you provide your rental agreement with him?
At some point, I believe I gave him my rental agreement for my property at 3875.
And did you provide information showing your financial shared accounts?
If he asked me for that, I would have provided it to him. I can't say for certain which accounts I gave him, but I'm sure if he asked, I would have given him any accounts he needed.
And you gave him the information, the contact information for your financial person at Chase Bank?
I would have, if he asked me for anything pertaining to the case, I would have given it to Detective Pillar so that he could investigate.
Okay. So he could help demonstrate Melanie's financial gain if you were to pass away. Is that correct?
I didn't say that.
No, he asked you for that. Is that correct?
I can't recall him asking me that.
So he asked you for any documentation that would help him demonstrate financial gain for Melanie if you were to have died around October 2nd, 2019.
I can't recall if he asked for that specifically. If you're asking if I can recall whether or not I talked with him about the possibility that she had financial gain, I definitely talked with him about her having financial gain. If you're asking if I can recall the exact wording that he used, I can't tell you that I can confidently sit here and recall the exact wording.
Well, you looked at this exhibit, correct, a minute ago?
You showed me a document.
Would you like to look at it again?
If you're asking if you would like me to look at it, I can look at it.
Okay. It's the last line. Did that refresh your recollection of your email with Detective Pillar?
I definitely read what you shared with me, yes.
Melanie, you feel that? You under the bus, girl.
And he had asked you to provide documentation to demonstrate Melanie's financial gain in case you were to die on October 2nd, 2019?
He asked me if I could provide any documentation that could have showed that there was financial gain for her if I had died on October 2nd.
And you did provide the information to him, is that correct?
As I said, I can't recall exactly, but I'm sure I did.
And did you provide screenshots to him?
I'm going to object or ask for foundation of what? Screenshots.
Sustained, please lay more foundation.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the steak chalupa
Did you
is really
provide
good.
to Detective Pillar 6 screenshots in response to this email where he asks you for that documentation?
I gave Detective Pillar my phone, so they had literally every conversation I ever had. So I'm sure he would have had access to any conversation I'd had with someone
Okay, and when was that you turned your phone over?
at the time of the shooting.
So on October 2nd?
Correct.
So in February of 2020, February 12th specifically of 2020, did you provide to Detective Pillar 6 screenshots of messages to him for this purpose of demonstrating Melanie's financial gain?
As I said, I had a lot of conversations with Detective Pillar. So if you're asking for one specific conversation, I can't tell you right now that I recall exactly what I would have given him in February of 2020.
Okay. Would you like to look at this?
If it would help, sure.
Okay.
For the Bates.
I'm going to tell y'all right now that it's my personal belief that whatever, it does not matter what comes out of Lori's mouth. I'm not trying to blame Melanie. Nobody said you're trying to blame Melanie, but I'm telling you, it is my firm belief that, especially given that opening statement, okay, she wants Melanie held accountable as well. She is big, huge mad that Melanie is living her best life out there with Ian, doing the interviews, all the things. She's salty AF. She wants her in a cell down the block from her. I believe that wholeheartedly. Absolutely. Lori, in my opinion, is incapable of love.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, new hubby, new baby. She's got an Apple Watch, access to soap, skincare, Botox, hair care products, those types of things. Right. Lori has access to hot Cheeto dust, flour, and cleaner bleach. She gets her makeup routine out of the vending machine in
life
the
insurance
commissary.
policy that you provided to Detective Pillar, was that an active policy?
As of the date that
As
I
of
provided
that-
to him, or as of the date of my,
As of October 2nd, 2018.
yes.
Okay. And did you provide more than one life policy to him?
No.
To Detective Pillar? Did Melanie have a life insurance policy?
Sustained.
I think if you're asking, Julia says, does the state have anything of evidence besides the Jeep scene? No. Physical evidence? No.
Well, are you asking if she had an insurance policy separate from this on him?
Correct.
I'll allow it. If he knows.
Not that I knew of.
Okay. But in your agreement,
Did you?
You guys are the
provide also
best.
a copy of your mediation agreement to Detective Pillar?
Yes, I did.
And in that agreement, Melanie was supposed to get a life insurance policy as well on herself as you, the beneficiary?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point.
Sustain.
Who was the beneficiary on the policy that you provided to Detective Pillar
On what date?
on October 2nd? Who was the beneficiary on October 2nd on your policy?
Melanie Boudreaux.
And did you change that beneficiary?
I could not. It's a whole life policy. It's not changeable without both parties.
And do you remember when you provided that to Detective Pillar?
I can't recall.
Did you provide any other financial information to Detective Pillar in regards to his email asking you for documentation?
Can you ask that question again?
Yes. Is there any other financial documentation that you provided to Detective Pillar after he requested it in the email to you?
Are you speaking like on that specific date or
Anytime
at any point
after.
in the future?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again as to extrinsic.
Sustain.
Brandon, did you meet with the prosecutor in preparation for this testimony?
Yes.
When was that?
I can't say which specific day, but I met a few weeks ago, 2 different times.
2 times?
Yes.
How long each time would you say? Or how long was the first time?
A couple hours.
How long was the second time?
A couple hours.
Did you review documents at that time?
Yes.
To refresh your recollection of things?
To the best I could, yes.
Did you view any of the financial documents that you provided to police during those interviews?
I did not.
What documents did you review in preparation for your testimony here today?
The ones that I can recall would be my 911 call and the conversation I had with Detective Pillar.
So your interview with Detective Pillar?
Yes, the one that I had with him in the car.
Okay. But not all of your conversations with Detective Pillar ever, right?
I don't even know how I would do that.
Okay. You had mentioned in your testimony yesterday that the Tesla has a camera on it. Is that correct?
I don't know if I mentioned it in my testimony yesterday, but the Tesla does have a camera on it, correct?
On the front or the back, or how does that work?
They have cameras on the front and the back and on the sides.
And so it goes like, so like a 360-degree view?
Depending on the Tesla, there's different cameras that they have, yes.
And were any of those retrieved to your knowledge from the Tesla, the cameras?
The model that I had was not one where it saved the recordings.
So it doesn't save any recordings at all?
It did not.
Okay. When you talk about where the Jeep Wrangler was located on October 2nd, you said it was nose to nose with the white van, is that correct?
Correct.
How close was that nose to nose, would you say? 1 to 2 feet? 1 to 2 feet. 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 1 to 2 feet.
To me, that means that they were basically touching.
Okay. And then you had stated that you kept going straight, is that correct, after the shot?
Correct.
And then the Jeep passed you, is that correct? At some point?
I had stated that I went straight. I went around the corner and I parked, and then the Jeep followed the path that I did and went past me, went around the corner and then went down the other lane. Without looking at a map, I can't tell you what the name of that street was.
Okay. And so when it passed you, did you look over at the Jeep?
I saw the Jeep in my rearview mirror initially, and then I looked over to the right as it drove off down the road.
And did you see the driver of the Jeep?
I could not identify the driver.
And you have seen Alex Cox before, correct?
I couldn't see anyone.
But you have seen Alex Cox before, correct?
Yes,
And you have been with him on many occasions. You know what he looks like, is that correct?
correct.
And so you would recognize him if you had seen him, is that correct?
If I had seen him, I would recognize him.
So when you were looking, you said you first saw him in your rearview mirror. You saw the Jeep coming up towards you when you were pulled over, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you didn't see the driver at that time either in your rearview mirror?
That is correct.
Okay. You couldn't tell who was driving?
That is correct.
Not even if it was a man or a woman?
That is correct.
Okay. So you didn't see the driver at all?
That is correct.
And then you didn't see the plate number either as well, is that correct?
I did not give them the plate number, no.
And you had your phone in your hand, or you did not?
Can you give me some more context? When are you speaking of?
When the Jeep passed you, where did you have your phone in your hand?
My phone was connected to my speakers, so
Oh.
I was talking over the speakers, but I believe the phone was in my hand.
And like you didn't take a picture of the Jeep as it passed or the license plate or anything?
I did not.
Did you yourself personally take pictures of the Tesla after the incident?
Can you give me some context of when?
Anytime after the alleged shooting?
I sold the car, so I took a lot of pictures of it before I sold it. So, yes, I did.
Did you take pictures of it immediately after?
Can you give me a definition of like when immediately is?
Like, did you take pictures of it showing the window missing?
At some point, I took a picture of my car. I can't tell you when specifically, with it missing a window.
And did you take pictures of the bullet hole?
At some point, I may have. I don't think I did though.
Did you send those pictures to anyone?
I may have. I don't remember.
Did you send those pictures to your dad?
If I took a picture of my car, I may have sent a picture to my dad. It's not something that I recall off the top of my head.
Did you send pictures to the two friends that were there with you?
Object to relevance.
Sustained.
How long was it before you sold your Tesla after October 2nd?
I couldn't say. I gave it to the police. They had it for a while to run tests and do whatever they needed to do. Then when it was returned, I took it to a dealership to get it repaired. And after that, at some point, it was sold.
So did they repair it? They were able to repair everything?
They were.
Did they have to replace the whole door?
I don't know what all they had to do. I just paid for it after it was done.
Okay, I just want to talk about the situation with Donna Adelson. So I went and watched the short that Tanika's 2 cents did, and what she said is, and she's also got a post. I'll show you guys the post. Give me just a sec. I'll pull it up. What she got was a text alert through Vine. Okay. Give me one moment really quickly and I'll look it up for you guys really quick. I'll show you guys what she got. Okay. Hold on. Okay. All right. So this is what she got. Okay. She got a message from Vine. There are many, many reasons why she could have gotten this message from Vine. Okay. One could be a medical release. All right. They have to let people know when Donna is out in the GP, general population, the general public. Okay. Also, it could be this is also something that gets sent when they move a prisoner. It is quite possible that Donna might be at a different jail. So I searched Google, and y'all know I can work Google like nobody's business. I cannot find anything in the media related to this. Okay. And this would have happened about 30 minutes ago. So, because this is her time. So, and she's an hour ahead of us. So she could be anywhere. Donna Adelson made many, 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 many requests for bail, all of which were denied. I highly doubt that even if Harvey Adelson was sick on his deathbed, even passed away, that Judge Everett would ever release her. The fact of the matter is that Donna Adelson was apprehended. She was arrested at an airport. Okay. She had one-way tickets to Vietnam, which is a country that does not have an extradition treaty with the United States. Okay. So there are many reasons that Vine would send out an alert, a text message like this, but her being actually out in like free, I would give the chances of Donna Adelson actually being released like on bond or bail super low, like 5%. Okay. So what's more likely is that Donna's in the hospital. All right, let's keep going with this.
So the police did not ask you to turn the car over to them, is that correct?
That is incorrect. I turned it over to them.
And also, I just want to say, I respect Tanika's 2 cents as a creator, and she's really good at vetting information. And I will tell you that her short only says she got this. She can't really, do a whole lot with it. She was on a bus at the time. And when she gets home, she'll look more into it. She, at no point, I want to make this very clear, she didn't make any type of guess or assumption. She was just like, basically, WTF. This is the message that I got. So I want to make that clear. She's just keeping her subscribers updated with a Vine text that she got. So there was nothing like nefarious or clickbaity or anything negative about what Tanika posted on her community post, nor in her short. She was very upfront that she doesn't know what's going on. She just wanted people to know that she got that. She just gave the facts. Exactly, Rachel. That's it. That's all. Because I know how things get twisted on these streets, and that I don't want anybody in any way, shape, or form trying to twist this into some kind of, well, the ward said, blah, 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 blah. No. She just gave the facts. That's all she knew, and that's what she said. That's exactly what she said. I'm telling you, from my experience and getting those kind of text messages, what they could possibly be. And Judge Everett was adamant. that she was going nowhere. She is a freaking flight risk. And on top of that, just this year, the wiretaps were released. They were the subject of a hearing where Donna thought that she had hung up a call. This is when she was out, that she hung up a call from between she and Charlie Adelson when Charlie was in jail, and she hadn't. And those were sus AF as well. So, and they talked about going to Vietnam. So, it's, yeah.
When did the police have the car?
As soon as the shooting happened, I gave it to them, and they kept it. I can't remember when they gave it back to me, but they gave it back to me later.
So days or weeks or months, or how long after?
Like I said, I don't know specifically, but I would guess it was a couple weeks if I remember correctly.
Okay. So if that happened on October 2nd, then you had it back maybe before the end of October?
I did have it back before the end of October, I believe.
Okay. And was it the same as when they took it? Was it intact the same way, the window missing and the bullet hole?
I mean, I can't say if I would believe that whatever tests they did were not intrusive. I don't know if they did anything, but as far as the car being the same, it looked the same to me.
Okay. And then you sent it to get repaired after you got it back.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And then how long did it take them to repair that car?
I can't recall.
Like weeks or days?
Like I said, I can't recall. I can't tell you a definitive time.
Do you have to have a rental car during that time?
I borrowed a friend's car.
Okay.
Also, I agree with Sissy that old Lori Vallow Daybell Esquire would try to twist this against me. But I'm glad you came in here with that, Nick, because
At what
that's
point
interesting. I'm curious.
Did you?
Shut up, Lori. You're going to ask some question that nobody gives a rat's fat kneecap about, and it has no pertinent value to the jury in this trial. Anywho, thank you, Nicholas, for coming in here and letting me know that, because you know that I follow Crazy Donna. Oh, and that's a trial I'm also looking very, very much forward to. All right, let's keep going. And just for the record, for the last time, Tanika's 2 cents is a friend of the channel.
Decide that the Jeep was gray and not puke green or camo green.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Did you provide information to the Gilbert Police Department that it was a gray Jeep?
I believe I referred to it as several different colors throughout conversations I had with law enforcement.
Okay. And where did you get your information from the VIN number that it was actually a gray Jeep?
I did not.
Where did you get the information that it was a gray Jeep?
Later at some point I decided I thought maybe it was gray.
Later at what point?
I can't say for certain.
A month later?
To
2 days
to
later?
me, puke green and gray are very similar in color. I identify both of them very similarly.
But when did you change your mind from puke green or olive green to gray?
Like I said, I didn't say that I changed my mind.
All right, I got it, Tess.
So in all the
All right, so Tess sent me a custody record that gives her Donna's age and all the things and her ID, and it just says custody status, out of custody, custody detail, general release. It also says, due to the current status, updates on this record are no longer available. If you have questions, please contact the reporting agency. Again, there's another screenshot of similar, that she's out of custody. It says general release. And it also says, then she sent me the same thing from Vine. I don't know what's going on. I'll keep looking into it. All right. let's keep going.
Reports, they say a gray Jeep. No one ever says a green Jeep. So that information did not come from you?
I can't say what the reports say. I can only share what I can testify to, which is that to me those colors are very similar or the same.
So with you having access to the VIN number of a particular Jeep, would it give you the color of the car?
I never looked at it, so I can't tell you.
You never looked up that VIN number?
I never looked to see if it gave me a color.
Do you know if that's a thing that you can look up the VIN number and see the make and model and color of a car?
I can't testify to the ability to look that up. That's not something I'm an expert in.
And you've never done that?
Tried to look up a car color by the VIN number?
No, that you've never looked up that specific VIN number to that Jeep. Is that what you're testifying to today?
Can you give me some context?
Yes. So after October 2nd, did you ever look up the VIN number that you had access to of the Jeep Wrangler that was in my household?
I don't think I did. I don't have a recollection of it.
So did you just provide the VIN number to Detective Pillar?
Yes.
And when did you provide the VIN number of my vehicle to Detective Pillar?
I think on October 2nd. I'm not certain, but I think that's when I gave to him.
So on this day, on October 2nd, you provided that VIN number to the detective?
I think at some point, if I recall correctly, I remembered that I had it, so I got it and sent it to him just to make sure that he had it.
So at that point, even though you thought it was a puke green or olive Jeep, he would have access to the information that it was actually a gray Jeep that was in my family household. Is that correct?
I can't testify what he had access to.
But you provided him with that information that very day?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
Okay. So, I went and I looked at some things respective to Donna Adelson. Okay, there's still no update, but I will tell you this. One of the last things that came out, which would have been May 20th, and also there's another one. Okay, so there's an article from the Tallahassee Democrat that talks about a jailhouse snitch alleged Donna Adelson offered to pay for witness testimony in her trial. And on May 20th, the judge was going to consider a change of venue in the Donna Adelson case. If the judge were to be close to granting a change of venue, that would mean that they would move Donna Adelson to whatever venue they determined might be the best place. So, like, a different county. So that would necessitate Donna Adelson being moved from the Leon County Jail. I looked at Donna Adelson's court docket. There isn't anything. The last order is on 5/5. The judge did grant an order for continuance for Donna. That's the last thing that was on there. All right. So, all right, let's get back to this. We might have to do this in two parts, y'all.
Brandon, did you know of Alex being an avid shooter?
I knew that Alex liked to shoot guns.
Did you know that Alex liked to frequent the shooting range?
I didn't talk to Alex a lot about that, so I can't testify whether he liked to or not liked to.
But you knew through the family that he did go to the range a lot?
I mean, I can't testify. Like I said, I can't testify to whether or not I knew that he liked to go to the gun range.
Did you ever go to the gun range where he was there?
I did not.
Did you ever go to the gun range and anyone in my immediate family with them?
Can you define your immediate family?
Well, my brothers, sisters.
I don't recall going to the gun range with your brothers or sisters.
Did you ever go to the gun range?
Object to relevance.
Why is it relevant if he went to the gun range?
Do you own a gun, Mr. Boudreaux?
I guess it's sustained.
To relevance.
Overruled, he can answer.
I do own guns now, yes.
Did you own a gun on October 2nd?
I did not own a gun on October 2nd.
You did not have any kind of gun in your possession on October 2nd?
I did not.
Did Melanie own a gun?
She did.
It was registered to Melanie, not to you?
She bought it, correct.
When you say that you provided the VIN number to Detective Pillar, was that later in the day after the police had already left, or was it while he was still at the scene?
I believe it was after he left, but I'm not certain.
So how would you have gotten him that information?
Would have probably been through one of my friend's phones because he took my phone when he left.
So would it have been an email or a text message?
I believe it was a phone call,
A phone call.
but I'm not certain, like I said.
And at that time, you had handed over your phone to Detective Pillar?
Yes.
When did you get your phone back?
It was late that night. I believe he had to give it to somebody who, I'm not a police officer, so I'm going to probably say this wrong, but they had to copy everything off of it, and it takes however long it takes. And so I turned it over, and then I just waited until that was done. And apparently I had a lot of stuff on that phone, so it took a long time.
A long time, meaning a day, 2 days, 6 days?
Fergus already testified that night.
Sustained.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You had it back that night.
I actually, as I think about it, it may have even been in the morning that I went back and picked it up.
Okay.
I'm not certain, though. It was either that late that night or it might have been in that morning because I think I didn't have my phone that night.
Okay. Did you go buy another phone in the meantime?
No.
You just waited for it to be returned to you?
Yeah, it seemed like the most logical thing to do.
Did Melanie provide information to you that she was going to be out of town that weekend before October 2nd?
She did.
And was that the first time that you, that weekend of October 2nd, or those weekdays, I guess it was weekdays at that point, is that the first time that you activated the mediation agreement where the children were with you at the new house?
We were following our mediated agreement throughout the summer. However, that was the first time that I had a space where we both felt like the kids could move freely and be kids. So it was the first time that they got to come and spend time and enjoy it. They previously had stayed at my house, but I had to be very careful. It's an expensive house, and it had to be show ready. Someone could come at any time.
So what day was it that the kids started being with you on your visitation that before October 2nd? Was it the 1st and the 2nd, something?
No, it would have happened the day that she left, I believe. I mean, I haven't reviewed this, and it's been a long time, so I believe it would have been like a Thursday or Friday that I got the kids, and I had them over the weekend, and then until I did the drop-off on October 2nd.
And what day of the week was October 2nd? Not sure I know. Do you remember?
I believe it would have been a Wednesday based off of our parenting schedule.
Okay. So on Wednesday's the day that you would have turned the kids over. They'd have gone to school and Melanie would have picked them up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that morning, had you talked to Melanie in the morning before school at all?
She and I only communicated through text.
Did you communicate with her through text that morning before school?
I texted her to let her know that I was dropping the kids off.
And then you had to have some kind of text messaging to let her know you were there to drop off Breeze, right?
Correct.
And you met at the park for that. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you went straight to the gym after dropping off Blake. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's about how far from Melanie's house to the EOS gym?
Oh, Jesus Christ. He already said it's like halfway through. Sheesh. It's halfway between. I can't stand you, Lori. Let's
And then
go.
how far is that to your residence from the EOS gym?
5 or 10 minute drive.
Hey, Gretchen. Good to see you. Stop playing with these people, Lori. And also, why are you using the children's names? They're minors.
So when you were driving down your street, when you turned onto your street, did you see anyone else out in the neighborhood?
I did not.
No one out walking or anything that you noticed?
Not that I noticed.
And when you drove away over the pool area,
Oh
was there
my
anyone out in
God.
that location?
Not that I noticed.
Lori, you're getting the video. I've had enough. Where's it at?
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
You're so annoying, Lori.
How many cars would you say were parked on your street, on the Phelps Street that morning?
There were 2 that I noticed. I couldn't tell you how many other cars were parked on the street.
But it's kind of a crowded street, so people do park on the street there that live in that neighborhood. Is that correct?
I have never testified to that. I can't recall.
And you had lived into this same neighborhood previously, is that correct?
Not this portion of the neighborhood, no.
Well, one neighborhood over on the same street, right?
I did live on previously I did live on the neighborhood over on the same street.
Right. So you're familiar with that neighborhood anyway, even though you only lived at this house for a short time, is that
Oh
correct?
my God. Lori, why? What are you talking? This is ridiculous.
I'm so tired of you.
God, I already had to get out of my brain, Neat. I was just thinking I'm going to speed her up. Yeah, I'm only going to do 1.25 just because.
I would not agree with that. This is a different section I didn't go to.
Because there's no availability to go from that neighborhood to that neighborhood, even though it's the same street. Is that correct?
You can't drive. It's not connected in driving.
Correct. But literally, that house to that house is only like 10 houses away, really.
Can you give me context? Which houses are you talking about?
I'm just saying, your rental house from the house you owned earlier on Phelps Street is really only about 10 houses away, even though there's a divider and no access to drive straight over.
Yeah, I've never counted how many houses, but it is a short distance between those 2 houses.
And you guys lived in that house for a long time before you moved, right? A few years.
Sustained.
Thank you, Trina.
Brandon, when you were providing all of this information to Detective Pillar, in regards to your relationship with Melanie, were you trying to have him charge Melanie with your murder?
Object to relevance.
Sustain.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Oh, thank Christ. Oh my God, you guys.
I'm going to start by talking to you about June 25th, okay? Why did that date stick in your mind?
It was a painful date.
You can get closer to you, Mike.
It was a
please.
painful date.
Why was it a painful day? Why did that stick in your mind?
My grandfather was someone who was really important to me, and I was dealing with, sudden loss is traumatic. So I was dealing with that, and my family is the most important thing in this world to me. And so the dissolving of my family was probably one of the most painful things that I've gone through as a person. And that date is the start of the dissolving of my family.
Okay. So when you were talking with Melanie, was the focus of that argument about your marriage?
Yes.
And during that argument, did you and Melanie discuss issues within your marriage?
Yes.
And during that, did Melanie bring up reasons why the marriage was over?
Yes.
Did any of those reasons involve things that Melanie claimed you did to her aunt, Lori Vallow?
Yes.
So one of the reasons why the marriage was going to end was because of this defendant, Lori Vallow, things that she said you had done to her.
Yes.
Did that include the idea that you had hacked into Lori Vallow's computer?
Yes.
So that's something that Melanie was bringing up to you during this argument about the end of your marriage.
Yes.
Did the issue of you helping Charles Vallow try to take away Lori's temple recommend also come up?
Yes.
So again, your marriage and reasons why it's ending tied to Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Is that why you sent those text messages to Lori about the temple recommend, that you had nothing to do with trying to take that away?
Yes.
You told her that was a lie.
Yeah.
During that argument, ultimately, did Melanie say that she just wanted to end the marriage?
Yes.
Prior to June 25th, did you think that you were about to get divorced?
No, I had no, there was no thought in my mind that that was going to be an outcome.
And then all of a sudden on June 25th, you start hearing about things that you've done to Lori Vallow that is why your marriage should end.
Yes.
Was it your belief, based upon your conversations with Melanie and with Charles Vallow, that Lori Vallow was involved in causing your divorce?
Yes.
I talked to you about your interview with Detective Pillar on October 2nd of 2019, okay? Have you tried to memorize your transcript?
No, we talked for a while, so it'd be a lot to try to memorize. No.
When we met, you listened to it again.
Yes, that was the first time I had heard it.
You have been asked by the defendant to read various parts of your transcript. Are you having difficulty recalling what happened to you that day with the Jeep?
No.
Were you trying to verify the specific words that you were telling Detective Pillar during that interview?
Yeah, I think it's important for me to be honest and be thorough, so I wanted to make sure that I was thorough in what I was responding.
Can you tell us from your own memory what the Jeep looked like?
Yes.
What did it look like?
Like I described it that day, a puke green or a gray Jeep with no tire on the back with a Texas plate.
Did you tell him that it was a Jeep Wrangler?
I did, yes.
How many doors did it have?
2-door.
That what you recall?
That's everything that I recall.
Is that what it was?
I believe that's what it is, yes.
And when you talk to us about what you saw happen, is that because you listened to an interview or your own independent memory of what happened?
Those are my memories.
So whether or not you used X word or Y word, do you remember that the back of the Jeep window lifted up and a rifle barrel came out and pointed at you and shot your car?
Yes, I'm certain that's what happened.
There were some questions about kids. You were given some portion of a transcript. At one point, are you talking to Detective Pillar about calling 911?
Yes, I was explaining the dispatcher.
When you were talking to the 911 operator, do you mention to her that you think maybe someone was using a paintball gun?
Yes, I did.
When your car was hit and a bullet didn't go through the window, were you trying to figure out how that was possible?
Yes.
Did you later realize that it wasn't a paintball gun that hit your car?
Yeah, as I stated, I was certain once I saw the bullet hole in my car that the same reason I called 911 originally, that someone had shot at me, and it was definitely a gun, and it was definitely, they were trying to kill me.
So why did you call 911?
Because I believe in following the law.
Did you think that you'd been shot?
Yes, and I wanted protection. I wanted to feel safe.
Okay. When you saw that bullet hole in your car and no paint on your car, what went through your head?
I think, like I said, it's a really scary thought because up until then, I think you want to feel safe. And so I was trying, my window was broken, but I didn't see a bullet hole. And I was trying to think of something to make myself feel maybe safer. And when I saw that, I knew that there was no other option than that someone just shot at me and they were meaning to kill me. There's no other logical explanation for why that would have happened.
When you were driving back to your house and from the pool area, you told us that you saw the Jeep going up Cole sort of in your direction initially, correct?
Correct.
And then you saw the Jeep turn right onto Waite,
Correct.
and you could see across that field, and then you saw it turn south onto Fisher?
Correct.
So you were asked about why would you return home? Did you actually see the Jeep sort of leave?
Yes, and that's why I turned around.
Did you in fact follow that same direction so you could see if the Jeep was still on Fisher?
Yes.
Did you see it on Fisher?
I did not.
When you turned onto Phelps, did you look down the street and see if you saw the Jeep?
I did not see it on Phelps.
So by then you knew the only other way it could go would be now into Fairview?
Correct. And I believe I told the person on dispatch that I believed he went out onto Pecos.
And that's because that's the only way you can go from there, right?
Correct. I just wanted them to know there's only 2 exits.
When you got back into your driveway, you were still on with 911, right? We heard that.
I was, yes.
Were you thinking about, oh no, if the door opens, the glass might fall out?
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
Were you trying to talk with the 911 operator and keep yourself under control?
Yeah, I was trying to make sure that I gave them all the information they needed.
Were you trying to watch and document how the glass might have fallen out of the window when the door opened?
No, I actually was surprised when it fell because it wasn't something I was expecting.
Same thing when you were up by the pool. Were you thinking rational enough as you're talking on the phone with the 911 operator about someone just shooting at you to think, oh, I should make sure that I take a photo of this Jeep?
No, if you recall, I was a little out of breath, and I was very nervous. That's a nerve-wracking experience.
Is that when we heard you actually almost like panting, like you had been running?
Yeah, yes.
And do you wish you'd seen the driver?
Of course, I wish that my Tesla camera worked. I wish a lot of things.
But you didn't.
I did not.
You were asked a lot about this VIN for vehicles. When you are given a VIN number, does that mean you get to see the car? Does that have anything to do with a visual of the vehicle?
No, it's just a number that identifies cars.
So in your use of a VIN number to look up car insurance, did you care the color or the accessories on a vehicle?
I mean, an insurance company might, but you have to think they had multiple cars. I had to take all those VIN numbers, put them in, and then you go run it through a software, and it tells you who's going to give them the best price. So I wouldn't have been paying much attention to any of those details. I can't even recall what any of them were on the cars.
Where the hell were you today, True Psych Ward? I needed you while we were doing ARCA. I'm glad you're here now, though.
So you're just putting in the VIN numbers to see who might pop up the best insurance rate.
Yes.
You were asked a lot about communications with Detective Pillar. Did you know him before this?
No, I met him that day.
Was he the assigned case agent for your case?
Yes, he was.
So that's the person you were supposed to communicate with about your case?
Yes.
You were asked about having a large amount of text messages or phone calls or emails with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that all of those communications that you have had with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years were not just about this case?
That is correct.
Would it be fair to say that some of those communications that you have had with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years were in relation to a completely separate investigation?
That is correct.
On October 2nd of 2019, did you tell Detective Pillar that you believed Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved or responsible for this shooting?
Yes, I did.
So this is before you had access to VIN numbers or anything else?
That's correct.
While you are still sitting there being told by the police not to leave, Detective Pillar comes over and takes you away from sitting under the shade, brings you to his car, and interviews you.
Yes.
And you tell him that.
Yes.
So even if Melanie had some financial gain in if you had died, did that change your opinion at all that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved in this shooting of you on October 2nd of 2019?
No.
I have no other questions.
Are there any questions for this witness from any member of the jury? All right, seeing none, you can step down, sir. Thank you. I'm going to call your next witness.
Okay, remember how I said we're going to have to do a part 2? We're definitely going to have to do a part 2. Oh my God, I feel bad for yelling now. Dr. B said, okay, girl, I've been in bed all day sick, but I do want to talk ARCA and Crash Daddies, right? I'm going to text you in a minute. Listen, you guys, I'm going to have to do this in 2 parts. My daughter just texted me, and I can go over and see little Chicky Nuggy Pot Pie. I haven't seen her since Monday. It's freaking Friday. I miss her little face. I love you guys, but I got to go. Okay. I will be back this weekend. All right. Just so you know. Oh yeah. You know, Lori's big mad about this hair flip. Yes, she is. Trina K. Barat it. And you notice the jury had no questions. You know what that means? They ain't buying what you're trying to sell, Lori. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to text Dr. B after I get off of here. Maybe we can do some Crash Daddies. We'll definitely be coming back to Lori. Maybe part 2. I don't know. Maybe like Saturday night or something. I don't know. I got to work a schedule out with my pal over here. All right. So you guys have a great rest of your Friday. I'll catch you later. It's been great having you here. If you haven't done so already, give your girl a thumbs up. I covered multiple things today on this very one stream. And if you missed it on the lunch break during the Karen retrial, I replayed me and Dr. B's probably one of our best roasts. And that is Stephanie Lazarus. All right. Her interrogation. It was hilarious. It makes me laugh every time I watch it. You guys have a great day. It's in the playlist on my channel called The Roast of True Crime. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your night and rest of your evening, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.